is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is Wednesday, the 7th of August, 2024. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is news to 6 a.m. on News Power Digital. Chairman of the Commission of Inquiry into the Paria diving tragedy, Jerome Lynch, King's Counsel, says there is no inconsistency between the statements made by the Director of Public Prosecution and the recommendations contained in the Commission's report submitted to President Christine Kangaloo last November. In a release yesterday, Tuesday, Lynch stated that consistent with the issued statements by DPP Roger Gaspard SC on July 31st, the Commission's report in itself does not constitute evidence for the purpose of laying a charge of manslaughter as observed by the DPP. Therefore, the Commission is in agreement with the DPP's call for a police investigation to determine if such evidence exists. Energy Minister Stuart Young admitted yesterday there is uncertainty about when Trinidad and Tobago could expect to begin receiving natural gas from Venezuela due to the political unrest in that country. Minister Young, however, remained confident that the commercial terms and conditions of the licenses for Dragon and Mannequin Cocina and that the TNT government negotiated with Venezuela could withstand scrutiny. During an interview with reporters at the NESC Drilling Academy in St. Madeleine yesterday, Young said citizens should be concerned about the drama unraveling in Venezuela since the July 28th presidential elections. Deadly protests erupted minutes after incumbent President Nicolas Maduro declared himself the winner. The United National Congress extends condolences to the family of Dr. Emmanuel Hussein on his passing. Dr. Hussein was an executive member of the United Labour Front from 1976, a predecessor party of the UNC, MP for Naparima for 1981 to 1986, and then MP for Tunapuna and Minister of Health in the NAR government, formed by the alliance of the ULF, DSC, ONR, and Tapia, which Dr. Hussein helped to shape as a ULF executive member. Dr. Hussein played a vital role in the parliament during the 1990 attempted coup, attending to wounded persons, including late MPs, Leo Devines, and the late Prime Minister and President Ian R. Robinson. For his brave and professional conduct during the ordeal, he was called a hero by his colleagues at the Commission of Inquiry into the 1990 coup. There are claims residents and business owners in Paget, Orange Grove, and St. Augustine South are facing alarming increases in criminal activities, including extortion, robberies, shootings, and home invasions. The update from Member of Parliament for St. Augustine, Khadija Amin. MP Amin said she paid visits to several families who've been severely impacted, adding the community is experiencing a wave of business closures and some resorting to migration due to threats to their safety. She said the situation requires teamwork between law enforcement and residents and appropriate interventions to ensure the protection of families. Krishna Maharaj, elder brother of former Attorney General Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj, died on Monday while still in incarceration at a Florida prison after being charged and convicted for the murders of his father and son, Derek and Dwayne Mo Young, in a Miami hotel in 1986. The 85-year-old Trinidadian-born British citizen spent the last 38 years in jail, having been found guilty and initially sentenced to death. The sentence was eventually commuted to life behind bars. In 2019, a judge found he had proven his innocence, but the conviction was not overturned. This was because the Court of Appeal later held that the evidence of innocence was insufficient to have him freed. Former AG Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj also issued a statement on his brother's passing, saying he never had a doubt in his mind about his brother's innocence. He said, quote, "The death of his brother Chris is not only a sad loss to me, but a sad loss to my entire family. Chris always maintained his innocence." Maharaj's body will be flown to England as per his wishes of Maharaj's wife, Marita. Jerome Richards of Trinidad and Tobago is in the finals of the men's 400 meters at the Olympic Games in Paris. The event will take place at 3:20 p.m. today. Running in lane 7 in semifinal 1, Richards placed second in a time of 44.33 seconds at 1:35 yesterday afternoon. The race was won by Quincy Hall of America in 43.95 seconds. And the Caribbean athlete Kirani James of Grenada got a season best time of 43.78 seconds to win his heat number 2. And the TNT Olympic gold medalist and bronze medalist Kishan Walker says he's mentally preparing himself for going into the finals of the men's javelin throw tomorrow, Thursday, in Paris. Reviewing his performance in the qualification round of action on Tuesday morning, Walker said he's grateful for what he accomplished, especially in light of the various challenges he faced in building up to the prestigious competition. He admitted there were times when his camp had serious concerns, but is thankful for the blessings which came his way during the trying period. He says he's staying positive about getting into the finals and his performance on Thursday. Finally, French pole vaulter Anthony Amorati didn't win a gold medal at the 2024 Paris Olympics, but may receive $250,000. The 21-year-old athlete, who went viral after he failed to clear the crossbar because his bulge got in the way, is being offered a whopping $250,000 to show off his manhood to an adult website. Cam Soda is the website. Its vice president, Darren Parker, reportedly sent Amorati a letter offering him the deal, saying, if it were up to me, I'd award you for what everyone see. So, your talent below the waist. The deal would involve a 60-minute webcam show. No word yet on a response from Amorati. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We'd have major news coming your way at 7 a.m. Good Wednesday morning to you.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
Hump Day Wednesday, the 7th day of August. Yeah, a week gone already. So good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show on Power 102 Digital. Of course, full cast in this morning. We just heard from Dr. Paul Richards with our news brief. We'll hear from Wendell Stephen, who's logged on, Richard Ragoobarsingh. We got Shane and Ruben in the mix. Of course, my name is Steve Khan. All right, 26 degrees at Piarco and at Crown Point in Tobago. Met Office is saying today is going to be hot and sunny, despite partly cloudy intervals and showers over a few areas. There's a 40%, which is medium chance of isolated thunderstorm activity favoring western areas of Trinidad. Maximum forecast time for today, 34 and 32 at Crown Point. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Morning, Paul. Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Richard. And good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and all our beautiful listeners all over the globe.
Mm-hmm. Morning, everyone.
I have to say, I have to just say, I got 2 messages this morning. I get lots of messages from our listeners and so on, but I got 2 this morning that really lifted my spirits. And Lord knows sometimes my spirits needs lifting. So despite the messages that I get regularly, but I got one from my cousin Calvin Strong, who lives a believer life. You know, as a matter of fact, he ministers in a church. And also I got one from Rena Buru Jennings, who will also regularly send me messages. But this morning, I think the 2 messages that I got really lifted my spirits, and I just wanted to say a thank you. I also wanted to point out Charmaine from New York. Thanks for your assistance, Charmaine. You're such a darling. Eh? I don't know how I didn't know you so from a long time. And also from Captain Ron, pilot from United Airlines, who always sends me these wonderful messages, you know, because he's deep into the African faith and so on. So I just wanted to point out that this morning. For the other people who send me messages, of course, it's always welcome. Carol Guevara, Gloria Charles Pantin, everybody else who sends me messages. Thank you ever so much. Sometimes I tell people they won't know that I'm down in certain times because I don't generally show it. I may say it, but I don't generally show it, you know. So sometimes your messages really, really help me, you know. And with that, let me do birthday greetings as I'm on my soapbox. Happy birthday to my very good friend, Marlene Rahman. Paul, you know who Marlene Rahman is?
No.
Marlene Rahman is the mother of your latest find for Paul 102.
Marsha?
Yes, that's
Okay.
her. That's
Good
Marsha's
job.
mom.
I like Marsha.
Marlene Rahman. Very good friend of mine. Happy birthday, Marlene. Daniel Robert Batiste, Donna Maillard. That can't be the normal Donna Maillard. That's somebody else. Charlene Ford, who works at the Port of Spain Corporation. Susanna Haddad. Esmond Lord. Emily Clark, who is the wife of Bishop Ashton Clark. Samantha Felix from all the way up there in Siparia. Happy birthday to you all. All right. That's today's what? August 7th. Right. I have to remember I have my two sisters coming up on the weekend, August 10th and August 12th, and Mrs. Hazel Manning on August 11th. I have to try to remember that. All right, so that's it. Thanks for a wonderful morning. It's today's cricket at the Queen's Park Oval, and that's where I'm going to relax and ease my mind today.
You only need 10 people that go in, probably.
That's all right. I'm going straight there. I have a good friend, Shaka Suberu, who always looks out for me, even though I'm a Queen's Park member. And
That's the Shaka Suberu who had a big thing in Osiama about the other day.
Yeah. That's my real partner. So we go in cricket
That's his
together.
horse.
I'm a horsey. So we go in cricket together today.
He doesn't have any OCM duties.
No. No. Not today.
Anyway, thank you so much, gentlemen.
He was blocked.
Well, they exposed the boy in ways that, it wasn't very nice.
Well, I had a great day yesterday. Thank you all for your wonderful greetings. Too many to respond to on social media and on the chat here. So thank you all. I went exactly what I wanted to do. I went to 3 bookstores and spent the day in bookstores in Manhattan. And I signed up for neurobiology class at NYU. You could sign up as a visitor and go and sit down in the class for an hour and a half.
So that was what you did yesterday?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do.
And how was your steak last night?
I'm a nerd.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's anyway.
I like books and I like the human brain. So.
And the steak was well?
No, I didn't eat steaks. Keep this as I'm 40. I was 40 20 years ago.
Yeah.
What's happening? I downloaded a video to share with people. Once again, thank you all for the wonderful greetings. I appreciate it very much.
Mm-hmm.
And congrats to Marsha Walker. She had a good show yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I heard.
Marsha is quite I like Marsha's mind. I like how she thinks,
Mm-hmm.
I think she has a great future.
She's always been a very outspoken young lady.
She's bright, she's passionate, she's outspoken, and she's eager to learn, which is good. So let me share this video of double Olympic medalist Keyshawn Walcott. He's grown so much in his delivery of speech. I remember when he won the first gold, I was at CNMG and we had interview. I haven't had an interview with him. The first interview he didn't turn up for because, according to his handlers, he was petrified. He didn't like talking at all. He wasn't accustomed to the limelight at all.
Yeah, he
very
was
shy,
he was
young
19 years old at the time.
Very, very young and very, very shy. And he
was
thrust into the international spotlight by winning the gold medal against all odds. I think he's the youngest ever gold medalist in javelin, if I'm not mistaken.
First non-European, first black.
Yeah, if you ask him a question, he would say yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's grown so much, and you'll hear it in his delivery. He's so comfortable now. He's since won several medals, including a bronze, I think, in Brazil. Or is it somewhere in Europe, maybe, where he won a bronze? So
yeah, he won a bronze at the same event.
And he had a tough time qualifying. He said he has some challenges, but let's hear him talk. And I just like how much he's grown in terms of his comfort level.
Hi everyone, we just finished the qualification for the men's javelin. Looking forward to some longer throws.
Isn't he very comfortable now?
Very, very, very.
Speaks well, carries himself well, always focused on training. So congratulations to him. I mean, we take it for granted. He's qualified for 4 Olympic Games. 4.
Mhm.
Since he's 18 years old.
Yes.
That is astounding.
It is.
That is absolutely amazing. So, and I think
coming from Toko, where he learned to throw javelin first via computer game. That's how he started.
And using makeshift sticks in the streets and in the fields in Toko.
Yeah.
I mean, and beating people who had the highest technology, the best coaches around the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
And wasn't a one-up because he also won a bronze medal after that first gold medal.
Yes.
So congratulations to him. And let's thank him for representing us so well at all those Olympic Games. I mean, he is one of the top javelin throwers in the world now. Eh?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And he's won several international other medals, gold medals, silver medals, bronze medals, all through the youth stage into his adulthood. So good for him.
Yes. Excellent.
Yeah. And you realize that in his message just now, that he is also a team player. He didn't say I this and I that. He said we.
Yeah.
Commending his team.
Very big. I think his coach is Cuban.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
You're throwing shade for somebody there with that eye thing, or?
Huh? No.
You're a good partner.
No. Yeah, you really have to watch someone when they realize that it's not only, for example, Keyshawn Walker is not only a one-man sport. He has a team behind him. I
understand those team. I was teasing you.
No, but some people wouldn't realize that there's a team behind an individual. Each individual at the Olympics is not a one-person show.
Exactly.
It's a full team. And when they're down, the team is down. But when they're up, the team is also up.
And some people seem to thrive as a one-man show.
Yeah, the I people. Every single athlete I have seen won a medal, won an event, has gone into that crowd and greeted their team.
Yeah,
every single one I've seen it.
They start off with their parents. We've seen athletes in front of the camera saying hi, mom and dad, thank you, mom and dad.
Yeah,
and because it started off with them.
Yep.
Encouraging, if this is what you want to do, and they get the encouragement, and that encouragement is a amazing morality boost.
Yep.
So
Julian Richards is also into the finals of the men's 400 meters.
Yeah, when is that?
And that's at 3:20 today.
Oof.
He's running he ran in lane 7 in semi-final 1 and placed second in 44.33 seconds yesterday afternoon. That race won by Quincy Hall of the US, and also Kirani James of Grenada, who's also a high performer, won heat 2 in 43.78 seconds. So
and I think St. Lucia got another medal yesterday.
Yes, Julian Alfred got silver in the women's 200.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the 100-meter winner got silver in the 200 women.
200, yeah. Well, kudos to them.
Well, the defending champion is not there for the 400 meter, so Jereem has a good chance again of medaling, I think. Kirani James will be hard to beat, and the Americans are running pretty good too, So, and I think is a guy from Zambia or Niger, one of those African nations, also running very well, But all the best. We have 2 chances at medals right now, because we have 2 finalists, Keyshawn Walker and Jereem Richards, and hopefully, I think Nicholas Paul is cycling today. Is he cycling today?
He's supposed to be also a medal contender.
Yes.
Coming up. So
yes.
The other thing I wanted to share is, this really blows my mind. And you ask yourself, how are they able to maintain such symmetry? And I'll just play the video and you'll see. I just had to download it to share it.
All right, let's take a look.
It has to be synchronized.
Tuning and synchrony. Of course, the pool is designed to get them under the water and above water at the same time from the camera.
Camera work, yeah.
So you see the way the pool has a glass side, and the judges are on the other side and can see everything on the cameras and in the water. And I just find the kind of training must go into this
To
for
hold your
years.
breath. To
With
hold your
breath
breath
control
underwater for
and
so long. While doing that. That is an amazing
absolutely
feat.
astounding.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
I always like to see synchronized swimming.
Yeah, so do I. And the jumps.
Yeah.
Right. So back onto the news now.
There was a particular video that also went viral with synchronized swimming. I don't know if you all saw it.
Mm-mm.
Did you all hear that the French pole vaulter, no pun intended, has been offered $250,000, $250,000 to appear on an adult website after he became globally famous by his bulge
Poor fella.
knocking down the crossbar.
You have that? You have that video?
I didn't download it.
You download it.
But Cam Soda is the adult website, and they're offering him $250,000 to show it off. Would you take the money, Wendell?
Oh, yeah. I'm not so fortunate, though.
I wouldn't ask Steve.
Yeah, don't ask me.
I wouldn't ask Steve.
Yeah, don't ask me.
I just said,
it's amazing, but I'm sure he's going to get a lot of deals.
It's not because of my shortcomings.
Oh. that was a lot of information there.
What's that?
Nothing. Did I say that out loud?
He said it is not because of his shortcoming. Jerome Lynch is back in the news.
His post because he.
Oh, as it said, Jerome Lynch. In his I did not know that, Paul, that the brother of senior counsel Ramesh Lawrence Mirage was in prison in Miami. I did not know that.
Yeah, man.
That's an old story.
It's an old story.
I didn't.
He was convicted
since he was Attorney
38
General,
years ago.
Since he was Attorney General, that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said 38 years.
Yeah. I said that's an old story. Well, he died in prison.
Yeah.
Okay.
His name is Krishna Maharaj. He's a Trinidadian born British citizen, and he was 85 years old when he passed. He lasted 38 years in jail. He was found guilty of murdering a father and son, Derek and Dwayne Moo Young, in a Miami hotel room in 1986. Later on, he fought the case actually until his death, and he was initially sentenced to death. And in 2019, a judge found he'd proven his innocence, but the conviction was not overturned and he was not freed because the Court of Appeal later held that the evidence of innocence was insufficient to have him free, which is a strange thing for me. I guess I totally would understand it.
I guess, yeah. That
you could prove your innocence, but the evidence is not enough to free you. So, but he fought to be released all through, but he died in prison. His brother, former AG Ramesh, issued a statement saying his brother maintained his innocence and he believed his brother was also innocent. So, condolences to the Maharaj family.
Yes, condolences
on the loss of their brother. Really tragic circumstances.
No.
Yeah.
You know, going back to the Commission of Inquiry. Jerome Lynch, interesting enough, commented yesterday, which is usually unusual for a past chairman to make a comment, but he commented on the issue of the DPP, Roger Gaspard SC, and the statement he made where he asked the police to open an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the deaths of the 4 men in the paradiving tragedy. The Commission's recommendations initially suggested corporate manslaughter, but the DPP in his release on July 31st said, well, that is not qualified in Trinidad and Tobago, but there can be, is it gross negligence or something like that, leading to death or something of that order. So he said there's no inconsistency between the statement made by the DPP and the contents and recommendations of the report of Commissioner Inquiry. There may be different nomenclature, different classification of the offense. But he says in the statement by the Jerome Lynch, he said there's precedent in a case in Trinidad and Tobago where someone fell into a hole or something that the company had not secured the perimeter properly. And there was reasonable expectation that if you have dangerous circumstances in your property, you should secure your property perimeter so that people don't wander, in particular the children, and are hurt. You understand? So
the strange enough, the Port of Spain Corporation lost a court matter with that already too, you know.
that was weird.
That because there was a hole in Mandela. Well, it was King George at the time. With I think it was a Wassa well or something like that, and someone fell into it and sued. You know,
If people have a reasonable expectation to be safe.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not surprised, but I mean, I guess it couldn't happen any different. Energy Minister Stuart Young yesterday admitted that there is uncertainty about when Trinidad and Tobago could expect to begin receiving natural gas from Venezuela.
Well, I would imagine that there would be
political unrest in the country. Mr. Young remained confident that the commercial terms and conditions of the licenses for Dragon and Mannequin, is it Cocina or Coquina?
Well, I don't know how they pronounce the QUI will be Cochina.
Yeah. And that the government of TNT negotiated with Venezuela could withstand scrutiny. But a lot of it will also depend on stability in Venezuela.
And that is not going to happen for a while.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it's going to happen for a while.
Yeah. That Venezuelan situation is worrying. You think it would have been fixed after the that going, eh?
No,
but it got worse.
Venezuela's had decades of waves of unrest.
Yes.
Decades of waves. If it's not this, is that, is the other. No matter. It's always ongoing. So, you know. But he admitted yesterday was uncertainty, you know, which is quite interesting. And fortunately, the U.S. election seems to have swung around in favor of the Democrats. Kamala Harris, the vice president, named Tim Walz yesterday, was the day before yesterday, as her running mate, to rave reviews.
Yes.
He is a former decorated soldier. He is a coach. He was a congressman. He's the governor of Minnesota?
Minnesota.
He's well liked. He is the person who termed. You saw the Democrats started using a phrase to describe Donald Trump. He's weird.
Yes.
Which is a really strong marketing tool because you don't want to get too flowery. You want to use terms that everybody could understand. So you want that weird guy for your president, and that the Republicans are weird and J.D. Vance is weird. So they started to repeat it over and over to put Trump in a particular, because Trump is very good at that. When Trump starts with crooked Hillary, this and that, he repeats it over and over. It's like somebody in Trinidad think they can repeat something over and over.
Trinidad, we go to the extreme though.
No.
But Trump is really he is extreme, because I mean yesterday he was talking about Kamala and her low IQ. She's a low IQ individual.
I think it's a lesson to the US that society that's 320 years old or something like that. Is it? How old are they?
More than somewhere around there or more.
That has such an amazing history can produce that sort of individual.
Yeah. It
is frightening that a country that has so much and has done so much and has such a history could produce such a warped individual.
They put him as president.
Put him as president and offering to put him again. Ironically, interestingly enough, there's a group of Republicans who have formed a group and saying that they are Republicans against Trump. And they have endorsed Kamala Harris 248 years old, America. They've endorsed Kamala Harris because they feel that although they're Republican, Trump is unfit for presidency, and they will not toe the line because he's representing the Republican Party in the election. And they said he's unfit for the presidency. He's a sick, warped individual. He's a convict, and the party should not have endorsed him.
Yeah.
The good thing about him, when he gets the cut skin this time, this will be the end of him.
You think so?
Yeah, well, he will continue to agitate, but he'll fade into oblivion.
Well, I hope so. For
I
America.
think that if he tries the stupidness that he tried last time in Capitol and agitate his MAGA followers to an attempted insurrection, I don't think the outcome will be the same at all with the National Guard.
But it's amazing what's happening in some of these so-called first world countries, these countries that...
Look at the UK.
Look at the UK. That's what I was going to... That's exactly where I was going. Look at what's happening in the UK right now. It is crazy. They have arrested over 150.
I don't know. And again, on the other side of the world, an 18-year-old, something in his mind and upbringing triggers him to go into a school and stab to death 3 children, 8 and 9 years old, 3 girls, stab them to death, and stab others who were critically injured and were fighting for their lives up to days ago. You know,
Yeah.
Keith Bissessi, right here. Trump has 4 kids, 3 of them old enough to be future candidates. But I don't think that when he gets vanquished, his daughter has already seen the writing on the wall and removed herself because she's lost so much credibility because of her father's antics.
Yes.
Ivanka Trump. She was once a darling entrepreneur, and she's lost all the business has gone away. And she said she used the excuse of she's focusing on her children. But the sons are still chips off the whole block. But I don't think they will have the kind of gravitas once their father is exiled to oblivion forever. But back to the UK, that you are 18 years old and you're going to school and stab about 10 children.
Yes.
And 3 die. What kind of warped, sick mind does that? But then we have here people who open fire in fields and children get killed.
Yes.
So
yes. This world with human beings, eh? This world with human beings.
Yeah. It is quite disturbing to say the least. And because of that, the riots have broken out around the UK, targeting immigrants and places of refuge for immigrants.
Yes.
Fighting with police. The new Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is having a time in terms of trying to quell this wave of violence in the UK.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the images are worrying. You know?
And then the impending attack of Hezbollah and Iran on Israel.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what going on in the world?
Mankind.
Human beings.
Mankind.
Human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Human beings are, I don't know, human beings are quite the challenge. We should open the phone lines.
Yeah, I was just going to tell you that. So our lines are open. Give us a call. You know the numbers, 222-8255. North Americans, toll free, 866-525-1099. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Steve.
Morning, Derry.
Good morning, Dr. Paul.
My dear.
Wendell.
Morning, Miss Dabney.
Hope you all had a blessed night. So, you started watching the Olympics when he first hit in the semi-final with the Dream. You won't believe it. I normally don't panic with nothing, eh? And I was really afraid at one point when I saw him, like when he was running in 3rd position, and then he probably glanced across and he saw the other guy, and he just speed up to qualify in a 2nd place. So this morning I'm wondering, I hope he got a good rest because he needs some extra energy to come and just run like 43 something, because this 400 meters today will be a fast race. Might be a
Very
record.
fast. You're right.
Because these guys, oh my gosh. I remembered from years ago, I think it's in the 80s, Ian Morris, he was a 400 and 800 meters runner.
Yes.
I don't hear about him at all, and I know he came back to mind yesterday, and when he used to run like 44, 45, and now these other young people nowadays running a shorter time than that, So I say, oh my goodness, Jerry, I was afraid at one point, but hopefully he gets a medal. I don't care which color, but it has to be a medal. And
Well, he'll probably have to run the fastest he's ever run to win a medal.
He has to run the fastest he has ever run before, because this race, and you know who I love the best, besides our boy, the Grenadian James. Karani James.
Yeah.
And he come along, he's 31 years. He has been, this is what, his third or fourth, since 2012. And I remember him when he was like 19 years with Attobola. And I think that time he ran, with Attobola and timing, the years with Attobola, but not in the same races. I said, wait now, Karani James is still around, yeah? But he and all, I think, will get a medal. I feel you get into medal 3. And I don't care what color, but it should be 2. So I'm looking for that today. Oh, God, you'll have a wonderful day.
All right. Bye. Thank you. You as well. Good morning, Richie Rich.
Hi, good morning, guys. And good morning to our listeners and viewers, wherever you are.
How are you, Perry?
I'm good.
Good to hear.
I had a long night last night because we had rehearsals and it went till... Huh? I said our rehearsals went till almost midnight.
Why did Wendell call you Perry?
That's my middle name.
Okay. Very observant,
You don't miss that there, Richie. He's fast, good,
I'm a social scientist. I have to observe.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen. Hope all is well.
Good morning, Captain Ron.
No, there's not Captain Ron.
There's not Ron? No, it's not.
This is same state, though. What about us from Florida, from Orlando?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's our caller from Orlando.
The entire world, my brother, is in turmoil.
Not hearing you clearly.
War. I said the entire world is in turmoil now. War in the east, war in the west. That situation over there, with Hezbollah. My admin is from Lebanon, and she tells me it's scary. It is scary. Okay? What's going on in Gaza is scary. What's happening in North America?
There's something wrong with Netanyahu. I'm sorry, I'll say it plainly.
I'm sorry?
Something wrong with Netanyahu.
Something wrong with what, sorry?
Netanyahu.
Yeah, well, Netanyahu is playing himself. Bibi, there's no reason why he couldn't go to the peace plan. There's no reason. He wants to completely annihilate those folks. Completely. He doesn't care. Okay? But to bring it back to North America, the problem is this. Black folks, colored folks, usually tend to stay away from voters. Okay? It's a historical fact. Trump has a base. I'm jogging here this morning in my community, and I'm seeing signs of Trump already. Okay? The white folks, they come out and vote. I think it's tantamount to what happens in Trinidad the election. I've heard where a lot of the folks in the UNC, you will see they bring in the grandmother and the grandaunt to vote. We tend to stay away. For some reason, we believe our vote will not make a difference. And that is the problem we face this coming year. If we do not turn out en masse, we are dead. D-E-A-D. Forgive me, I'm joking. But this is dead on arrival. We have to turn out from that. The insane. I had a run-in with Donald Trump 35 years ago, when I wanted to rent an apartment in Brooklyn. I just got my my degree. And I was refused because I didn't fit the image of his building. Okay? Because I'm black. He wanted to keep his building all white. And understand something, I'm a doctor, certified. Those days I was Kings County. You know, he refused. I didn't see the image. I still have a copy of the note that they rejected me. Those days was email, of course. So I'm saying that if we do not turn out to vote, we dead. We will contribute $5, $10 to Kamala. She will get $21 million in one day. But that money has to transfer to sports. And that is what Kamala has to do in the next 90 days. Tune up.
The call is deteriorating though.
Yeah, caller, it's I don't know, we just
I
get a
think
lot of
he's clearly outdoors. He's clearly outdoors. Yeah.
Let me
So
do
you
it.
get a lot of wind.
Let me take off my headset. Hold a second. I'll take off my headset.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll take off my headset. Instead of being, my noise reduction headset, we're supposed to be noise reduction. It's not working all that great. But we need to turn out the vote, my brothers. And I am going to work on that. I and several other colleagues, we're going to do it in whatever way. But our folks do not believe in the ballot for some reason. If you look at it, Hillary, 31% came out to support Hillary. 31%. Okay? Trump got more. White, uneducated folks. They support Trump and these things. They believe in the MAGA revolution. Because, forgive me for saying this, there's still a lot of, I'm running up a hill here. There's still a lot of hatred in this country for the black and browns. I live it. I have my patients who come in to see me, and I can tell you, when they see a black doctor, I don't practice that much again. I'm more a consultant. They look at you in a particular way. I go to places like Advent Health and these places, and I am paid a different rate to my white counterparts who have less experience than I am. And I have taken them to task for that. Again, it's still subliminal, but it's there. So we have to, in America, come out to vote. We cannot sit back and just assume that Trump will be defeated because he is whatever he is. I mean, look, yesterday, someone gave him a Rolex watch and a very ugly Cybertruck. That's almost $150,000. A guy donated that to Trump. Of course, he can't accept it because he can't accept anything over $3,000. But I tell you what's this is a young man, 22 years old. So I'm saying to you, as much as we feel that Donald is on his way out, we have to raise the ante, and we have to raise.
You have to make sure he stays out this time.
We have to make sure he stays out, and he has enough surrogates. Okay, forget Congress; all of them support him. Okay, if you could look at what Trump has done, the Supreme Court, and say, listen, a sitting president could do what he wants as long as in the line of duty. But guess what? Trump said it years ago. I can go on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and get away. And he's right.
You got to go into the news.
Or just validated it. He validated it. So he could say, you know what? I don't like Joe Biden. And he's a threat. Take him out Secret Service or CIA or whoever. And he's gone. It's in the line of duty. Imagine you putting that power in your hands. And we are supposed to be a first world country. We talk about Putin, or Putin could execute who he wants. The Supreme Court just gave back to him also.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to you.
Yeah, we had a cut here now, caller. We had to do the news.
I quite understand. Gentlemen, listen, have a blessed day.
All right.
Take care. Good show. Good show.
Right. Thank you, Orlando.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. You're right with that, Wendell. Let's get in the headlines of our 3 dailies, gentlemen. Richie?
All right. So the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian for today on the front page. Talk done. Farley tells TTPS turn Tobago upside down as murder toll hits 19. That's the main headline on the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian today. Subheadlines: Young uncertain about Venezuela gas due to unrest. And the picture of Stuart Young at some at some thing with young people. HDC: no contract awarded to Chinese firm yet. And on the back page of the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian, Walcott and Richards hunt medals. I think Kishore Walcott throws today at around 3 o'clock or 3:20 p.m. In the final. No, sorry, Jareem. Jareem is in the final around 3:20 today.
Yeah.
So that's it for the front and the back of the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian. Front and the back of Daily Express. The front: declare your party. EBC chairman, retaining officers will be asked to reveal their party allegiance and membership before working in polling stations. Declare your party. I've never heard
What's
that
that
before.
story?
That's usual.
What is that story?
EBC chairman, returning officers will be asked to reveal their party allegiance and membership before.
Based on what law?
What craziness is that?
Based on what law?
I don't know. Before working in polling stations.
The Mr. Some stupidness sometimes is killing me.
That
Declare
can't be
your
a real
party.
story.
Huh?
That can't be a real story.
I don't know, but that's on the front page of the Daily Express. That's the headline they went with. Kishore and Jareem in Olympics finals, and Ramesh's brother dies in prison. On the back page of the Daily Express today, 3 times the joy. Who's this? Anil Sukhdeo and his wife. Oh, they have triplets. Okay. And ministers, it's kind of like a wraparound actually, because it's news at the back. It's not sports. Minister's nephew gets $0.2 million bail, charged with trafficking marijuana, and commission chairman, no inconsistency in public statements. All of that is on the front and the back of the Daily Express. The news day for the day. Front page, it's all about Olympics. Kishore and Jareem book spots in Olympic finals. Going for gold is the headline that the news day went with. Chief Sec wants radical response to Tobago murders. And on the back page of the Newsday, West Indies aim to go big at the Oval. Rapid calls on batsmen to step up for South Africa tests. And TT edge Bahamas 2-1 in Billie Jean Cup tennis. So that's it for our 3 dailies this morning in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Over to you, Paul, for the poll.
We might want to look at that story with returning officers. What craziness is that I hear?
Well, let's get the results of our morning poll that we asked you yesterday. Do you think enough is being done to protect banking customers? That was our poll yesterday. Every single voter said yes.
Well, should we just read a bit of that
or no?
story with that EBC thing?
Sorry, no.
Oh.
Did I say yes? I meant no.
Good. Cool.
Ragoobarsingh?
Story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's going good.
Where?
EBC chairman, retaining officers will be asked to reveal their party allegiance and membership before working in polling stations. Retaining officers, I'll just give you a little bit like the first 2 paragraphs. For the first time in the history of general elections in Trinidad and Tobago, retaining officers will be asked to declare their party allegiance and membership before working in polling stations. Elections and Boundaries Chairman Mark Ragoobarsingh said yesterday that the EBC sought external legal advice from a senior counsel who provided an opinion that the EBC can make this request of retaining officers. He disclosed this during a journalism workshop series titled Enhancing Ethical and Effective Election Coverage, hosted by the Trinidad and Tobago Publishing and Broadcasters Association and the Media Institute of the Caribbean, in collaboration with the British High Commission in Port of Spain. Ragoobarsingh presented on the role of the EBC in elections at the TNT Chamber of Industry and Commerce in Columbus Circle in Westmoreland. He said EBC selects 41 retaining officers. Questioned on steps to ensure transparencies of retaining officers and election staff, Ragoobarsingh said EBC normally does not accept retaining officers who are party activists. He said a retaining officer is removed if the EBC discovers they are an activist. the EBC got legal advice on whether it could ask returning officers to declare their political allegiance and also to disclose whether they were a member of any political party. He noted people had a right to political affiliation. The senior counsel advised that the EBC can make this request, and these would be valid questions.
That's going to court.
Yeah?
That's going to court.
Yeah.
So that's our morning poll this morning. Straight out of that story, should the EBC returning officers be forced to declare their political allegiance before working at polling stations?
That's going to court. People just feel because our senior counsel say it is gospel, you know.
True.
That is so true.
You have the C and the B wrong.
Where? Okay. The question irritated me so much I couldn't focus.
No, but is it that they have found evidence or there are allegations of returning officers influencing how people vote in polling stations? I'm not. Where did that come from?
One can assume that people have the right to have a political allegiance as protected by our Constitution. To presume that you can't do your job because you are aligned to a political party within the rules of the EBC is astounding to me.
It is crazy.
I mean, I expected to wear ballies or rising sun on your chest going into work. But to have to be forced to declare your political allegiance, let's see what the audience says. The phone lines are open.
Yeah, let's
all right. 222-8255, toll-free North Americans, 866-525-1099 on WhatsApp at 318-1021. Our morning poll.
Should EBC returning officers be forced to declare their political allegiance before working at polling stations? That's the question this morning. Yeah. What's your take? We want
it have senior counsel. Anyway, nobody will say that.
No, don't say anything.
It has senior.
All right. So let's
I want to go where I think you might have gone. It has senior counsel never
missed an opportunity for a payday.
Yeah.
And it has senior counsel get itself it.
All right. Hanif Daniel says no. David Wares, yes. Rena Jennings, no. Boy Bedesi, no. Mrs. R, no. Josie Richardson, no.
I've never heard more craziness in my life, honestly.
Fifi Smith.
Yeah. And just check. Look.
So
Fifi Smith in Goodwood, Tobago says no.
More money for lawyers, you know.
Says no. Thomas Diaz, no. DL, no. Reynold Roberts, no. CJ New York, no. Gloria Gray, no. Beauty Culture, hell no. Catherine Henry, no. On WhatsApp, let's see. Captain Ron says no. Eddie out in Sutton Island says no. Let's see. Somebody else. Jaron says no. David Nelson, no.
Senior counsel in the article?
No. At
least
not
up they wanted to declare their political allegiance. They cannot declare this.
Well, not up to the part that I read. I don't know if it was mentioned. I don't know because there is more in the article.
All right. Another WhatsApp message here says no. Cascade St. Anne's, no. Val, no. Okay.
Once in a money go and spend in court again.
You know what I want to find out?
Dre, hold on, gentlemen. Let me finish up with the votes. I only have 2.5 minutes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Dre says no. Lenny James, no. Somebody says my answer. Carl M. Jack says no. Mr. Seawing says yes to the poll.
So the grand set the precedent that any state what you're going for now, you have to declare political allegiance. That the precedent.
Apparently. Good morning, caller. Okay.
My question is,
good morning, caller.
Under which government that person gets senior counsel?
Yeah.
New Jersey, yes.
All right. Thank you.
Does that mean the CEO of the EBC and the chairman of the EBC have to declare their political allegiance too?
Lester Craigwell,
but no. What it implies, not so?
Julia S. Batiste, no. Ish out in Malik, no. Wayne Joseph in Ontario, Canada, no. Jean Clark, no. Miss Ingrid in Tucson, Arizona says no to the poll.
Is Carlisle Cupid saying yes though with his position?
Okay.
He said such declarations are normal in the US. It is actually necessary. I'm not so certain, but
All right. Good morning, caller.
Me again. My answer is no.
All right.
Emphatically no.
Thank
Because
you,
one thing they
Orlando.
will ask you, one thing they will ask you is, what is your religion? And by the way, Richard, are you having any shows for independence? I will be in Trinidad at independence. Bye.
He's thinking about it.
Oh,
yes,
close
yes.
to that
You
then.
will know. Yes, he
A
should
quick
be
answer is
doing
yes.
Yeah, Mary could dance. Yes. Let's go back. I did. Okay. Right. Another call here. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
How could they prove that? I would like to know how they could prove that, because anybody could lie. They could say no, they could say yes. So
All
I
right.
don't know how they could.
So your answer would be?
I said no.
All right.
I
Thank
would
you.
like to know how they proven that.
Thank you. All right. Should EBC returning officers be forced to declare their political allegiance before working at polling stations? Ronald Peer says no. Alistair Hart says no. All right. You have
with
less
all
than a
these
minute to
political
vote.
parties we have now, don't they think that somebody's going to belong to somewhere? And the only party you could go and check for a database for is the PNM. None of them other parties have a database of who the members are.
Jess Archer
don't care?
Kennedy says no. Kyle Cupid says yes. All right. Let's see. Any more votes coming through on WhatsApp? Evie will be here in less. Oh, she'll be here in 5 seconds. And you have a couple of seconds again before my clock hits.
Imagine going to the NTA and saying, I want to see a database of members so that we could disqualify somebody. How are them producing that? Or hope?
Well, political parties have expressed concern over any move by the EBC to have returning officers declare their political allegiance and party membership. The UNC political leader Kamala Prasad-Bissessar told the Express yesterday that she needs to have more information on the context and statement made by the EBC chairman Mark
But why
Ramkeri
some
saying
returning
that
officers?
returning
Why
officers
not
will
go
be
to
asked
the
to
CEO
declare
of
their
the
party
EBC,
allegiance.
the chairman of the EBC, the board of the EBC, the workers in the EBC? Why not? You understand?
Well, you know how long
All right, we got to run the news, gentlemen.
You know
And
how
of course,
long
on
I
the
agree
other
with
side
Kamala
of 7 o'clock,
Prasad-Bissessar?
our guest, we're talking property tax with Minister Brian Manning. Let's get into major news on this, the 7th day of August. Starts right now.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Chairman of the Commission of Inquiry into the Paria diving tragedy says no inconsistency between DPP statements and Commission's report. Energy Minister says uncertainty about when TNT can expect gas from Venezuela. Claims of closure of businesses in St. Augustine due to crime. TNT sprinter Jareem Richards into 400 meters Olympic Games finals. And Olympic javelin medalist Keyshawn Walcott preparing himself mentally for Thursday's final. Details in a moment. This is News 2, 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sanjel-Bab. Good morning. Chairman of the Commission of Inquiry into the Paria diving tragedy, Jerome Lynch, says there was no inconsistency between public statements made by the Director of Public Prosecutions and the recommendations contained in the Commission's report submitted to President Christine Kangaloo last November. In a news release on Tuesday, Lynch stated that consistent with the statements issued by DPP Roger Gaspard on July 31st, the Commission's report in itself does not constitute evidence for the purpose of laying any charge of manslaughter as observed by the DPP, and therefore the Commission is in agreement with the DPP's call for a police investigation to determine if such evidence exists. In Recommendation 40 of its report, which was directed to the DPP, the Commission stated that based on the evidence before it, they found that there are sufficient grounds to conclude that Paria's negligence can be characterized as gross negligence and consequentially criminal. However, that recommendation further stated that the commission had concluded that while the law allows for a corporation to be charged with manslaughter, there was not a strong enough case, to recommend the prosecution of any one individual. Energy Minister Stuart Young has admitted that there is uncertainty about when TNT could expect to begin receiving natural gas from Venezuela due to the political unrest in that country. Minister Young said yesterday that he was confident that the commercial terms and conditions of the licenses for Dragon and Mannequin Coquina that the TNT government negotiated with Venezuela could withstand scrutiny. During an interview with reporters at the NESC Drilling Academy in St. Madeleine yesterday, Young said citizens should be concerned about the drama unraveling in Venezuela since the July 28th presidential elections. There are claims residents and business owners in Paget, Orange Grove Road, and St. Augustine South are facing an alarming increase in criminal activities, including extortion, robberies, shootings, and home invasions. The update comes from Member of Parliament for St. Augustine, Khadija Amin. MP Amin said she visited several families who have been severely impacted, adding the community is experiencing a wave of business closures, with some resorting to migration due to threats to their safety.
Residents are really overwhelmed by the continuous threats to the extent where some are contemplating hiring private security firms to do patrols. But really, that is also a significant cost and will place a substantial burden on the community's already strained resources. As a Member of Parliament for St. Augustine, I am committed to working with law enforcement and the authorities to develop a comprehensive strategy to combat this rise in crime in the area and to ensure the safety for all residents.
The Trinidad and Tobago Housing Development Authority says it has not awarded a contract to China Harbour Engineering Company Limited for the Santa Rosa project. The HDC states this procurement proceeding was subject to an open bidding process initiated on January 26, 2024. All participating companies, etc., registered to the Office of Procurement Regulations Depository. As such, all companies are deemed eligible for participation. Further, it said all companies were required to provide statutory documents and to complete a legal declaration form that provided details on their litigation history. You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. Jareem Richards of Trinidad and Tobago is into the finals of the men's 400 meters at the Olympic Games in Paris. The final of the event will take place at 3:20 p.m. today. Running in lane 7 in semi-final 1, Richards placed second in a time of 44.33 seconds at 1:35 Tuesday afternoon. The race was won by Quincy Hall of America in 43.95 seconds. Another Caribbean athlete, Karani James of Grenada, got a seasoned best time of 43.78 seconds to win Heat 2. Trinidad and Tobago Olympic gold and bronze medalist Keyshawn Walcott says he's mentally preparing himself going into the finals of the men's javelin throw on Thursday in Paris. Reviewing his performance in the qualification round of action on Tuesday morning, Walcott said he is grateful for what he accomplished, especially in light of the various challenges he faced in the build-up to the prestigious competition.
Hi everyone, we just finished the qualification for the men's javelin and by the edge of my teeth I made it. I'm thankful. I think everything went as planned, but we were a bit scared, but at the end it turned out well, so I'm grateful. The last couple of months, I think this has been a lot of grace from the Lord, knowing that we've battled a lot of ups and downs for the past couple of months, and now at my 4th Olympics I'm here and able to make the finals. So
Walcott said the aim now is to get set for the finals, stay positive, and do the country proud in his 4th Olympic Games.
Able to make the finals, so I'm thankful. So the final I think should be on the 8th at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. And I think based on the competition today, based on the throws, we kind of expected that type of distance. And going forward, I think the final will be much better in terms of distance, in terms of over 85 meters, hopefully. And that has been the plan. So moving forward to the final, I'm looking forward to some longer throws.
A Trinidadian former track and field athlete, politician, and four-time Olympic medal winner Otto Bolden says Michelle Lee Ayi is free to voice her concerns. During an interview with Sportsmax after her recent 100 meters heat at the Olympic Games in Paris, Lee Ayi said she welcomed the support from those who have been giving it to her and the rest of the team, but was straightforward to those who did not rally behind the team. Speaking on the Power Breakfast program on Tuesday, Bolden said Lee Ayi is entitled to her opinions, and so is the public.
Michelle Lee Ayi is allowed to voice her frustration. She's at the Olympics. She had just walked off of the field of play where things did not go well for her. I think that Michelle Lee Ayi is a grown woman, and if she wants to express her frustration at what she finds has been lack of support and lack of, I don't know, whatever, administrative success, whatever, that is her prerogative. It is also the prerogative of the public to go, I don't like what she said. She's a representative of my country. I don't feel like I have to arbitrate. People are going to receive it well. Other people are going to say, it's Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, finally, let's find out what's happening with weather news for the period today until midnight. Trinidad and Tobago generally hot and sunny despite partly cloudy intervals and showers over a few areas. There's also a medium chance of isolated thunderstorm activity favoring western areas of Trinidad. Tonight will be generally fair apart from the odd isolated shower. Street flooding and gusty winds are possible in the event of heavy downpours. You can expect a temperature high of 34 degrees Celsius at Piarco International Airport and 32 degrees Celsius at Crown Point in Tobago. Currently, it is 28 degrees Celsius at Piarco and 27 at Crown Point. Recapping your headlines to 7 o'clock, Chairman of the Commission of Inquiry into the Paria diving tragedy says no inconsistency between DPP statements and Commission's reports. Energy Minister says uncertainty about when TNT can expect gas from Venezuela. Claims of closure of businesses in St. Augustine due to crime. TNT sprinter Jareem Richards into 400 meters Olympic Games finals, and Olympic javelin medalist Kishon Walcott preparing himself mentally for Thursday's final. I'm Avril Cynthia Bab. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in detail at 12 noon and an update coming your way at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right. Thank you so much, Avril, for our major news. You can join her again. Come at 8 o'clock for our news brief. Quickly take a look what's happening on the highways and on the byways. I got 2 accidents to tell you about so far. So Solomon Huchoi Highway northbound, just before Taruba exit, you've got one. And then you have another one, so Solomon Huchoi Highway southbound again. And that is just after Macaulay. All right. Of course, there was a serious accident just after 3 o'clock this morning in the vicinity of Trin City, where a huge truck carrying chicken reversed onto the highway and an individual crashed into him. They always do that. Not they, but I see that a lot. I don't know, reversing onto a main road and so on. From Coover to Sugarguanet, you got traffic. That Montrose main road is heavy. And of course, on the east-west corridor, Trin City UE, that's where you got it. And after that, it's pretty much clear until you get to Swim Call, getting to Port of Spain, where you got a little bit of congestion. All right, quick traffic update for you. Okay, so let's see if we have any more votes. Let's see. Did that. Cheryl Henry says no. And that's it. Just one no.
There must be some basis for this, where this comes from. And I saw Vianney Warwood say, didn't the opposition leader say that with the president? She did, but we didn't agree with it either, that the president need to be declared. Because the UNC put a politician in office as president already. I'll never forget the UNC under Basdio Pandey. A.N.R. Robinson was the leader of the NAR. He resigned as a minister in that government and then went into the office of president. So the UNC have no moral authority to talk nothing about people's political allegiance.
I just find when you start asking people to declare political allegiance, if you start with the returning officers, who's to say that the chairman of the EBC himself shouldn't be asked to declare his political allegiance?
Exactly.
Or for Nancy Scope, as is she not the MD or the CEO of the.
Yeah,
you understand?
she's
So where does it stop?
Yeah.
Where does it stop?
What I want to know is under which government the senior counsel get his silk. We gonna ask that too now. We had to ask that too.
Under the senior counsel declares political allegiance too.
Yeah. That's that. I don't know that necessary, but it had to come from somewhere. I would be interested to find out where it came from.
It's going to court.
Anyway, oh my God, can I give the results?
Yeah. So our question this morning was: should EBC returning officers be forced to declare their political allegiance before working at polling stations?
Well, we had 40 people voting on the poll this morning in the allotted time. And of the 40 people, 36 of you said no, returning officers should not be forced to declare their political allegiance before working at polling stations. And 4 of you said yes. So 36 said no, 4 of you said yes. Of course, the nays have it. You can continue to vote on this poll throughout the day, throughout programming, and we'll give you the final result tomorrow morning, which will be Wednesday.
You can continue to vote via our website at power102fm.com or our mobile app, which you should have by now.
You could ask people to sign a document saying you conduct your duties impartially. You understand?
But that's done anyway.
And that's done anyway.
You do a declaration of secrecy anyway.
You could do a declaration of secrecy. You could do an oath to execute duties without fear or favor.
Yeah, no, EBC has been very particular about people coming into the polling stations or working there. They take measures. So that's why I'm wondering, where did this one come from? Is it that they found evidence that a returning officer tampered with ballot boxes, influenced people?
That's what you have exactly. What prompted this?
Yeah, it has to come from somewhere.
So they sign a secrecy. They sign a secrecy declaration, right?
Yes.
But you know what's not
Even the political parties who send people in, they have to do an oath of secrecy.
But you know what's not a secret?
Sapper.
Lotto
Madness at Sapper this weekend.
Yeah, lines up.
Saturday at 8:30 p.m. and Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Theater is back on. And of course, tickets available at K-Squared Fashions, at C3 Center, Gulf City, and Brentwood Mall in Chagonas, and Fens of Marabella by the roundabout. And also at the Sapper box office opens today. So Sapper box office opens today from 12 noon to 6 p.m. daily, straight through to the weekend and show times respectively on Saturday and Sunday. So looking forward to it. It's been very grueling in terms of rehearsals, very grueling. Rehearsals have been going pretty late. So last night we finished like 11:30 last night or something like that, some ungodly hour, and then head home to Rima. So, but we're getting ready. So it's on this weekend, Lotto Madness in San Fernando. We are launching the play in San Fernando, so you're the first to see it. At Sapper this weekend before we go Cipriani College next weekend, I believe. So looking forward to that. And we have a special premiere actress on in a part this weekend. But a good friend of mine will be on this weekend in one of the roles. I'm not said who.
You acting in this play too, Richard?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
He's the one that won the lotto.
I'm the slim, very fit husband.
The thing is called acting.
You all do AI in plays now?
All right. So we're just waiting for our guest to log on. Mr. Brian Manning.
I actually got my assessment right for here. So I want to deal with that because I don't understand it. But I want something cleared up in it. I haven't asked anybody. I said I'm going to leave it for this interview. And however, I mean, the letter starts off by saying that you have 21 days subject, right? Well, it ends by saying you have 21 days subject from the date of receipt of the assessment. So I don't know if it's I don't know how they're determining that. Is that the date that I open my mailbox and get it? That all that I needed cleared up.
I guess.
Because there's a date on it. There's a date of 20th June on it.
I found it September 30th. They was kind of close in terms of your payment deadline.
Well, assuming you got it right away, because it's my assessment is dated the 20th of June. Right?
But Wendell, even if you didn't get it, even if you get it this month, or even if you get it on the 2nd of September, they're not altering the dates for people.
No. No.
So that's why I say I felt the 30th of September was kind of close.
My problem was that
it's not a small amount of money.
No. So here what needs to be cleared up, and maybe you all could clear it up for me before Minister Manning comes on. The figure that they're giving you, they said it's for the period, the assessment is for the period ending 31st of December 2024, right? And then they go on to give you a figure that you must pay by 30th of September 2024. Otherwise, it increases from 1st of October. That figure, is that the figure for the entire year?
Yes.
So in other words, you divide that by 12 to get your monthly figure?
But in a sense, yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Well, then mine high. I need to protest. I need to object.
That figure for this is the inland revenue statement you're looking at, right?
Yes.
Yes. That figure is how much you have to pay per year.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. You divide that by 12, right?
But why are you dividing it by 12? Right? You want to make monthly payments? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. But it kind of high.
And that's what I'm saying. It's not a small amount of money. And I just felt that the deadline for the first payment was pretty close to when people are receiving these statements. For people to rebudget and align to, it's not a small amount. It's not $200. It's not $300. It's not $500. You know, it's
$1,000 and up.
Yeah, it's $1,000 and up. Even my 94-year-old aunt, is she 94? Somewhere around there. Her property tax is over $1,500.
Wow.
And for pensioners, that could be difficult, very difficult too.
Yeah, so you're seeing the reality of what those figures are now.
Well, I certainly seen it on mine. I could ignore this, though, boy. Is there not in my name?
Whose name is it in? Whose name is it in, Wendell?
I better give her this or give her the property. Which one?
Well, you gave her everything else, so you might as well continue.
Well, true, eh? I gave her my heart.
Which is more valuable than the property.
And sometimes my sanity. But I want name alone on this. I objected to that too. Oh God, I have a real objection to make.
Yeah, and you're 21 days thinking.
And my 21 days gone, Richard. It's gone. So I'd ask Minister Manning if you can object after 21 days.
That's a different court case.
You know, mailboxes. Nobody don't go in the mailbox every day.
You check it. Sometimes you check it only once a week.
Exactly.
Because snail mail is not something that you're conscious to check every day.
No. All right. So, well, we are still waiting on Minister Brian Manning. But I guess we can take a couple calls by the time. Or Steve is on the phone. I got an interesting voice note yesterday. Richard, you would have been privy to it too.
Is that in the group?
Yes.
I didn't listen to it yet.
You didn't listen to it? You should listen to it.
No.
I said it for Paul. I said, Paul, sorry to disturb your birthday, but you had to hear this.
I actually didn't listen to it. So because of who I thought because of where I thought it originated, I didn't listen to it.
Oh, you didn't listen to that either?
No.
Oh, so it's only I listened to it? That's not fair.
But you wanted to listen to it? You have free will.
I was so busy yesterday.
Oh,
I saw the messages coming in, but I was so busy yesterday. I was like,
I don't get them anymore, you know.
Well, I play all my voice notes at the highest speed.
Watch.
Because,
block.
Well, I try that, but you know, I'm not that type of person. I'm not the type of person to block people. You know, but I can ignore you. I'm very good at that.
A friend of mine gave me a story of how he was so mad and he felt something was so unjust. He was in a supermarket in Freeport, and a guy, but apparently he goes there kind of often. It was relatively new, and this guy's been working there for like a year. And he was close to where the guy was, and this woman came up to him. And she wasn't particularly loud, but she was asking him, "You have $40 from him for several months now," and was making a little thing with him. And the boy was just saying, "Yes," very quiet, he said, "Right, yes, no, look, I just forgot," you know. And he felt impassioned and embarrassed enough for the guy, because he was close and hearing it, that he gave the guy the $40 and said, "Look, just don't borrow money and have yourself embarrassed like that as a young man and as a young black man." Because but of course he's a young black man too, well, relatively young. And so he gave him the $40. And he said, but it wasn't any big ruckus, but the supervisor came across when he saw the lady talking to the guy, and the guy gave her the $40 and she left. So he saw the guy later on and he said, "Oh, everything went," and the guy told him the supermarket fired him. Because the woman came and asked him for the $40. And he was upset, so he called me for advice on how to deal with it, because he was so upset because the guy had been working there for a year. So he's asking the guy, "Well, are you late for work? Are there other issues?" And the guy said, "No, I'm always on time. I'm early. I do what I have to do. I'm always there. I've been there for the last year." And because she came and asked him for the $40, and one of the floor supervisors heard, and he said, but he asked to speak to the boss, and they said, no, the boss is not available to him to speak to.
I tell you, there are some people who just shouldn't be dealing with people at all, you know, in places, you know. They are subhuman. They are selfish. They are ungrateful. They are vindictive. They are spiteful, and in some cases, demonic. I can't put it any other way.
Can we open the phones?
But see, we're still on the phone.
But he's on his phone.
Yeah, he's having issues there. He's going to restart his laptop, so give him a couple of minutes. We do have some calls streaming in, so yes, we can do that. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
I hope I'm hearing your conversation, and I hope you hold on, Alexa, volume 3. I hope you all recognize now what I've been talking about since the conversation of property tax is happening. I've said it many times. This is not going to be cheap. There's a woman who calls and she just begs for property tax to come. Bring it on, she does say. I repeat what I've been saying. I am not paying a cent property tax until West Mall and Gulf City Mall and all of those places start to pay tax first. Then I will start to pay property tax. But until you deal with the business community first, I am not paying a cent property tax.
Yes, Prime Minister. What's his name again? Yes, Attorney General analysis.
I have to tell you something. I'm going to pay. I'm not saying I'm not going to pay, you know, but I have questions, but I'm going to pay because you see me, I don't like my name in anything to do with the state in terms of better they owe me and they owing me than me owing them. I want when I depart this life that my children and mustn't have any issues to deal with.
But is this money going to the Arima Borough Council? Because if you're going,
Richard, did they put that in place as yet?
No. And you know Trinidad is not. You know Trinidad and Tobago is not quick at putting anything in place in a timely manner.
Mm-hmm.
We have a 9-day wonder. We forget the 5% tax that was implemented on the gas to improve for road repair. We still back to the same bad road, and we still paying
10 cents a litre we still pay.
And we still paying it on gas, and we still be back to the bad road again. We keep forgetting the money. We keep paying more money for things, not getting it, and we still want to pay more money. We are a stupid society, and I'm not paying none until the mall that have owing $70-something million in taxes and laundry. Until them pay, I'm not paying a cent.
Well, when they seize your house, Lincoln, let me know.
Thank you, Lincoln.
I want to come and buy it.
Let me see if they will get around to that, because they can't do nothing, can't implement nothing. Let me see if they can get around to taking people's property. They can't get around to implementing noting. I testing the system this time.
All right, Lincoln.
All right, thank you, Lincoln. Let's grab this call and then we'll get into Mr. Manning. Good morning.
Morning, everybody.
Yeah, Mr. Patrick. I have our guest online already, so quickly.
What about the man or the woman who only working on minimum wage? I had to pay this kind of money, boy.
Mr. Patrick, we went through all that already.
All pensioners.
Huh? How a man who collecting NIS $3,000 a month? You can't buy food in the grocery. You can't pay transportation. Yesterday, I was up in Tech in Arima, and I see people paying half money on the bill.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mr. Patrick. All right. So
he disappeared. Where did Minister Manning go?
No, I'm here.
Yeah, you're there. Good morning to you, Minister. How are you doing? Thank you for joining us, Minister Brian Manning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Hope all is well.
Morning.
Is the sweater looking small also?
Sorry?
Is the sweater looking smaller or Ozempic?
There's something called actually exercising.
The man playing basketball and thing all over again. The man real fit these days.
I'm trying my best, trust me.
Well, thank you so much for the invite on Sunday. Thank you so much for the invite. The entire Power Breakfast show will show up.
Good. I'll look out for you.
What are you talking about now again?
His mom's birthday is on Sunday.
And why do you think you should be invited?
Why not?
I mean,
she's my good friend. We've worked closely for years.
Many years.
For many years.
Good morning. Let's just
all right, let's get into the meat of the matter.
My dog trying to get between us, Steve.
I don't know, boy. I don't know.
I'm trying to save your family. I'm trying to save your family gathering from somebody eating your food.
Unless you're making a load of doubles
and cake and ice cream and everything. So anyway,
we'll have ice cream.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We wanted to discuss the impending property tax, which kicks in. Well, it's active now, but the deadline is September 30th, and just clarify what people can expect, those who have not received assessments. Etal, how is it going from the ministry's perspective, and who's collecting this? Is it being collected by the regional corporations as initially proposed?
At the revenue offices. So that's the place to go right now. I mean, this has been a tremendous initiative. You have to remember, this is the first time that we have been involved in a process like this one. And we've been trying to really update our property tax system since about 2008. So it has taken close to 15 years to really get to this point, to ensure that we have a more evolved and updated property tax system. I mean, if you remember what happened before, what obtained before, we had a flat land and building tax on the overall market value of your property of about 7.5%. Now we have a far lower 2% tax on the annual rental value of your property, which is one of the lowest tax rates in the Western Hemisphere. So these property taxes, of course, will be used to underpin local government activities, which is the filling of potholes, repairing roads, drainage, sewer systems, overall infrastructure is what we intend to use these funds for. So it has been very challenging. We have had some I would say, impediments to the entire process, but it's something that's coming along and will be implemented and is being implemented.
Minister, is it going directly to the local government, or is it going into a consolidated fund that everything mysteriously goes into and is apportioned by the Minister of Finance. So you may think back in my road bad, but they're actually fixing a road in Moruga.
No.
And you're saying, well, what are paying my property tax for?
No, if you were looking at the legislation and the what is coming from the Minister of Finance, it goes into a fund for the local government bodies, and it actually, by law, cannot be used for anything else other than local government activities. I mean, that's one of the updates or the evolution of the property tax system for local government activities that was implemented by law. So it cannot be used for anything else other than local government activities.
Yeah, but you still answer the question, is it a group fund, or is it that ARIMA people know that this money, it's a portion, ARIMA taxpayers paid $50 million?
Yes.
Or, you understand what I'm saying? Or is it just a big fund?
We know the number of properties in each area, and that's how it is apportioned. To each area of funds, wherever you pay your property taxes will be used in your community.
If persons have not yet gotten assessments, what should they do?
Wait until they get an assessment. If you have received a property tax notice, that is what you have to pay. You couldn't know exactly what your property tax rate would be if you have not received a property tax notice. So once you receive that, then you would know exactly what you should do.
Have all those notices going out to property owners in the country, to your knowledge?
No, that's why we've had to push back that date a few times, because it has been challenging. You know, we've had to update the entire system to ensure that people's information was correct, whether your address was correct, your full name, you know, those things. And then it has to go to the Board of Inland Revenue, not board, but it goes to Inland Revenue, where it's then again processed, and then the assessment is sent out based on your name and your address.
And if you've neither received a notice or an assessment, what should you do?
You could reach out to the Valuation Division 1 to get an assessment in terms of the value of your property, and also reach out then to IRD, or Inland Revenue, for your tax notices. Your tax notice. You couldn't get a tax notice without having a valuation on your home. So the Valuation Division would be your first port of call in a situation like that.
So is it that the date of 30th December may also change? Here why I'm asking that. I actually have my two assessments in front of me now, right?
Yes.
One was dated 26 February that gave the date as 30th of September.
Yes.
The other notice I got, and that figure was higher than the second one that I got,
yes,
right?
because it was reduced from 3% to 2%.
Right. But the second notice that's dated 20th June also has the deadline date as 30th of September.
That may also be adjusted at some point, but that's based on a call to be made by the Minister of Finance, and he will decide in due course exactly what will be done in that situation. Right.
So let me ask a couple other things on my situation. It also says, the last paragraph, objection to assessment. If you dispute this assessment, notify the Board of Inland Revenue in writing within 21 days from the date of receipt of the assessment. Yes. Is that also very subjective, because or it goes to the date of the letter that you got?
No, it goes to the date of the letter that you got. Once you receive, because we know when it was sent out. And when we send it out, you should receive it within 2 or 3 business days. So whenever you get it, the 21 days is the time period that you have from the receipt of the tax notice.
But I could safely tell you, Minister,
or from the issue of the tax notice, I should say.
Right, but I could safely tell you, I didn't get mine.
No, wait. What does it actually say, Wendell?
It says
it can't say both. It can't say issue and receipt. It has to say one or the other. From a legal perspective.
When we issue the tax notice, it is going to be sent to your address within 2 or 3 business days. It is your obligation to receive your tax notice to the address that you have given us as the property or your mailing address. So we send it to the mailing address that people have given for themselves. So then you have to receive your notice and then make payment in due course.
Well, I could safely tell you I didn't get mine within that 2 to 3 days. So by the time I got mine, my 21 days was practically.
No, you wouldn't know if you got it within the 2 to 3 days.
No,
you have to know when we sent it out.
Right, well, it's dated 20th of June. So is that the date I'm using my 21 days from?
Yes.
Well, not if it says receipt. If it says from days of receipt.
You would have gotten it within 2 to 3 days of issue. You would have the issue date on the notice. You couldn't have the date of receipt on it because it's 2 to 3 days from the point that we sent it.
Yeah,
Right.
but what if it says 21 days from receipt? It cannot be the issue date, not from a legal perspective.
The date is 2
And
to
if
3
they
days
wanted,
after it was
and if they wanted a clear receipt date, they should have sent it by registered mail for which you had to sign.
Yes.
Right.
Then
That's my
then the
thinking.
21 days is properly curated, so to speak.
Well,
Yes.
if you
Otherwise, I think,
you want to-
Wendell, I think what would happen is that there would be some latitude in terms of the objection date, because you'll be saying, well, I only received it, so, and they will probably exercise some discretion that you can still.
It has to be. The law is not going to be that strict in terms of, down to the last second or minute of receipt in terms of determining whether you should or shouldn't pay property taxes. The law has already said that you have to pay property taxes.
Right.
And any kind of dispute over minutes and seconds is not going to prevent you from having the obligation of paying your property taxes.
Right. So that's why I want that cleared up, because date of receipt can't be date of issue.
It is close enough. It is approximate. So it's not like it's a week or 2 weeks or a month. It's within 2 to 3 days of the notice being actually printed and issued that you would receive your property tax notice. And it would be sent to the address that you have given as your mailing address.
Fine.
You know what is amazing to me,
you know how our mail works sometimes, Minister. You know how it works.
No, sir. TT Post, we have been working closely with TT Post in this effort, and it has been given priority, and you have received your notice within 2 to 3 business days of issue.
But I'm not arguing with this because I know I didn't. So I'm not arguing. But anyway, another question is the issue of the payment. It says this payment is assessed for the period ending 31st of December 2024 in accordance to the Property Tax Act, right? And you have to pay it by 30th of December. I'm assuming that payment that they put there is for the entire year of 2024?
Is for the year, correct.
From January to December 2024.
Yes, and that's why there's been a far less outcry now that the tax notices have been issued as opposed to when the valuation notices were issued. When we sent out the valuation notices, some people mistakenly believed that was the amount that they had to pay for the year, which was incorrect. That was simply your annual rental value based on the overall value of your property. Of course, the property tax is 2% annually for your annual rental value. And that is what you would have been issued by the Board of Inland Revenue. And that is the actual amount that you have to pay for the entire year.
Right. So I'm assuming then that as of 1st of January 2025, that figure will now kick in also again for that year of 2025.
For the new year, correct.
But when will that be?
Unless there are any changes announced by the Ministry of Finance.
Right. And is that deadline also going to September of 2025, or it may be a shorter period?
It may be, but it's subject to change. As I said, the Minister of Finance may decide to make a change there because of the timing of when the assessments were sent out, the tax assessments.
Minister, are you willing to take some calls because the audience has quite a few questions?
I just want to ask one other question.
That we have done this.
I just want to ask one other question that's been raised. We have a Ministry of Digitization.
Yes.
And yet, this big rollout of property tax, as far as I'm aware, you can't pay it online.
Yes, that is,
and that's incredulous to me.
Yes,
that the government has a Ministry of Digitization where you're moving in a particular direction, a huge task for thousands of homeowners across the country having to pay substantially more, and you're saying no, you have to go into revenue offices.
Yes, and that's something that you're absolutely
it's
correct.
ridiculous.
You're absolutely correct on that, and there should be an announcement within the next few weeks in terms of how to be able to pay online. Until then, you have to use the revenue offices which are available in every community. But we do accept that the electronic version of payment has to be implemented, and it will be available within the next few weeks.
Minister,
in the next few weeks, taking into September, Minister.
Agreed.
And it's the 30th of September that you have to pay it by.
It is for now. And
I think he's hinting that date will change, Richard.
I'm saying it may change. I didn't definitively say it will change. I'm saying that's up to the Minister of Finance, and he would make an announcement at the appropriate time.
Yeah, I accept the hint.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier on that when we should ask the question that, for example, if Arima Bar Corporation collects $60 million, it's apportioned to the Arima Bar Corporation for use by law to do corporation things.
Yeah.
This may not fall into your garden, but what happens if particular corporations who've already indicated, some of them, that they are not in favor of this, don't use the money for borough focused repairs of roads and etc.? What is that? Does that now fall within the remit of the Minister of Local Government, or will they be breaking the law? How are burgesses to identify that, well, I paid my property tax, a year has passed, my roads are still terrible, my drains are in disrepair, etc., etc.?
Yeah, I don't think there's been any state body that has said that they've been receiving enough funding for activities. Also, the law states that it has to be used for materials and certain activities. For instance, you couldn't use the property tax revenues to add more employees to the corporation. There's a thin, narrow segment where that spending can be done legally. If not, you're in violation of the law. And then if anything is reported, you would be assessed by the law as to whether you have committed.
But I'm talking about the burgesses now who would have paid their property taxes and complied with the law, and they are not seeing the changes that they want to see in their communities because they have paid property tax.
Yes.
Hopefully to get these services provided.
They would have grounds for complaint, of course, and the corporations have an obligation to do the job that they have received funding to do. Of course, some of our corporations may have efficiency issues, but this is to make sure that the funding is at least made available so that those activities can be conducted. If there's a challenge there in terms of funding as against the actual work being done, that is something that can be determined by the law if someone decides to go that route.
But we already have those challenges in some of these corporations.
Some of them do have efficiency issues, but we are ensuring that going forward that the problem is not going to be a lack of funding, because I think most of the corporations have accepted that they do not receive significant or sufficient funding for all of the activities that they want to do over the course of a period. And we have accepted that the local government framework is one that isn't working, and that was what the government had. Its campaign was based on local government elections of last year, that this system here is failing, it is not working, so we are trying to upgrade and evolve the entire local government system. And part of that evolution involves how local government activities are funded, and we have decided that property taxes is the best way to fund local government activities, because property owners are the ones that benefit the most from local government activities.
But I think Paul's question pointed to a penalty in the event that they don't use it for the purposes it was meant to. What happens?
Yes, that is available. It's also in the legislation. There's criminal penalties, there's financial penalties, there's public review.
Minister Manning, you well know that it is on record in the Parliament that there's several corporations that haven't even filed audited financial returns for decades, in some instances as much as 15 years. So while people are paying these taxes, they expect a particular return on it because it's another financial hardship on them. And to wait for a corporation and this is not really directed at you, right? This is people's going to be responding in this way and saying that, well, they ain't providing financial audited statements. We can't hold them accountable because they ain't doing that, because we ain't gonna know what to do with the money as they provide the financial audited statements. So it's a convoluted process to get redress.
I was about to remind you that I'm in the Ministry of Finance. Some of these questions would have to be directed to the Ministry of Local Government. Our job is to ensure
That's your colleague.
that the funding is available.
Right next door in San Fernando too.
That they want to carry out. Okay, you would have to ask my colleague about internal issues and workings within the local government bodies.
Someone called earlier and was very adamant that he is determined not to pay property tax until commercial, industrial start collecting taxes on those. And the Minister of Finance was asked this in one of the debates leading to this, and he did give an indication that there's a timeline. Can you identify that timeline when those entities are going to start receiving instructions to pay taxes?
I couldn't give an exact timeline, but that is something that definitely will be implemented. As soon as we get this part of it done. You have to remember, we have about, I think it's just over 600,000 properties in Trinidad and Tobago. About 400,000 of them are residential properties. We want to use property taxes to underpin local government activities. So if you want to have the sufficient funding to carry out these activities, you would have to address residential properties first. It's a massive exercise that has taken over 15 years for us to complete. So we have been working diligently with especially hardworking people at the Valuation Division, also at the Board of Inland Revenue. First of all, the integrity of the data is something that we had to assess and to ensure was correct so that people would receive a sensible and reasonable notice.
But has the state, meaning the government,
yes,
and the collection of property tax and the process for collection of property tax is one part of it. And as you said, it has been quite a journey to get here, to get the resumption of property tax as the classification of property tax in that land and whatever it was. But that's just one part of the equation. Collecting the tax is one thing. Having the corporations and the city corporations and the borough corporation working efficiently is just as important as collecting the taxes, because you could collect all the taxes you want, send the money to the corporations, and they still not are able, because of their inefficiencies, to do that under the same government. How do you respond to that?
Yeah.
Given that and you've identified the inefficiencies in some corporations, and I don't think the state has placed enough emphasis on that, equal to collection, because if you can collect all you want, put the money there, and if the corporation is not efficient, it's the same outcome for the public.
Yeah, let me finish answering the first question first, right? We have just over 600,000 properties in Trinidad and Tobago, but just over 400,000 of them are residential. We have about 100,000+ in terms of commercial, and then the rest would be agricultural lands. So clearly, if you wanted to implement a system where you had enough funding for local government activities, you had to go residential first. Also, residential property owners are the ones that will benefit the most from local government activities. Now, what you just mentioned there is absolutely correct in terms of the efficiency of our local government bodies. And there's a policy for local government reform. And that reform is going to lead to a far more efficient local government process where a lot of these activities are going to be addressed. You have to remember, with local government reform, we are really reducing the level of bureaucracy. No longer will a request to fill a pothole have to go to the ministry, have to go to cabinet, and then have to go to parliament. Because that's the system we have now. They're just levels of bureaucracy that make things untenable. We have given autonomy to the various local government bodies.
Minister Manning, I'm loath to interrupt you, but with the greatest respect, the road to hell is paved with great intentions, and policies of reform does not necessarily mean that local government bodies, some of which have stated emphatically that they're not on this at all, is going to mean changes your wonderful mother championed this decades ago.
Yes,
and it didn't change.
I'm going to bite my tongue here.
Implemented yet. You couldn't implement local government reform without the necessary funding. So it's a lockstep program. You had to get the funding available first and then reform local government. So if one leads to the other. I couldn't reform local government and say, well, you have autonomy and you can do certain things and you don't need to receive funding from the consolidated fund. You would have your own pool of resources when there was no pool of resources. You had to have the resources there first, then reform local government, and then make sure that things are done within the legal parameters that have been set and determined by the legislature or the parliament.
Tell me something, Minister. Two questions. One, somebody just asked me, sent a question for me to ask you. Vacant land, that do vacant people with vacant land, no house on it, do they have to pay property tax? Because they have not received their assessment as yet for their vacant land. They have received it for their, apparently they have a residence elsewhere, but they said for their vacant land, they have not received property. And another person just sent a question asking, does the same system hold for Tobago, or is something different happening under the THA?
Yeah, no, last time I checked, we had the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. It's the same system in both islands. And if you're a property owner, it depends on whether it's residential, it's commercial, or agricultural. but you will eventually receive a property tax notice for any land that you own. So that's the bottom line.
Guys, I thought
Okay,
we
but they're saying that they haven't received that. Is there a preference being given to residential land where people are actually have residences? Is that where the preference is?
No,
initially?
I don't think that's where the preference is. They just may not have received it as yet.
The lines are open.
Yeah, let's take a couple calls with Minister Manning. You don't wonder. I have a stated view on local government reform, because of how long I spent in there.
Which is what?
Which is that it's a hoax. I've said it. Local government reform. I've said it. It's a hoax.
Government has publicly stated that the local government system in its current format is not working, and that is why you have for sure champion local government reform and also reform of the financing of local government activities, and that is why these two programs, property taxes and local government reform, work together in lockstep to ensure that we have a better system that actually delivers the services that the people of Trinidad and Tobago want.
Let's get into this call. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Manning. First of all, let me apologize if my tone gets a little rowdy.
But just make it short. I have a lot of calls coming through.
Okay, Mr. Manning, I listen to what you're saying there. What you're saying there doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You are saying that you have to get the money before you do the reform. That seems to me you're putting the cart in front of the horse. In my mind, you set policies, so when the money comes, policies is already established to secure the money. Second of all, I am having the problem right now trying to get certain things from local government. And they never have machinery, they never have equipment, the truck breakdown, all kind of excuses why they cannot do certain things. And I know you're going to tell me, well, they need the money to fix the equipment. That does not happen on the ground, Mr. Manning.
All right, let me
not want for people to
I don't think.
All right, we have calls waiting.
Thank you. Legislation, because that's exactly what it's trying to address. Local government reform gives many of the regional bodies autonomy so that they don't have to make requests to the Ministry of Local Government and then to the Ministry of Finance and then to Cabinet to get simple things done. We accept that the current local government system is not working. That's exactly what the local government campaign was last year for the government. We said it's not working, we are offering reform. But part of that reform says that each local government body will have a pool of resources so that they can make quick decisions. It leads to better efficiency, where they can decide if there's a pothole that needs to be repaired, I don't have to call the Minister of Local Government to get funding. We have a pool of resources there.
But money alone doesn't mean efficiency. That's my contention.
Hold on, and that things can be done far quicker than the previous system. We accept that the funding hasn't been available. We accept that the current system is in some cases unworkable, and that is why the reform has to be there and why the funding has to be available for the reform. There's no reform without funding.
Good morning, caller.
Clear and obvious.
Yeah. Hi. Morning.
Morning.
My question is okay, when the resources come, the transference, I've been listening, and they say the local government estate officers supposed to be transferred into a community policing situation. And I don't know what is the follow-up on that. And when the resources come, would we see better urban planning within the environment, illegal vending, illegal buildings, better aesthetics. But these illegal things, because the community policing is connected to that kind of, and taking things, is the training happening? What is happening around this situation of community policing in holding a better urban planning infrastructure where everything is whatever.
Yes.
At this moment.
Okay. I think that's an excellent question. And one of the challenges we've had is not having enough community police. We have not had enough. And a lot of that sometimes comes down to available funding, just like URP workers and so on, or corporation employment. That's been difficult to do some of those things because of the inconsistency in funding, because the system is absolutely bureaucratic to get some of those things done. And, so reform is supposed to shorten or reduce the levels of bureaucracy involved in getting simple tasks done And we expected to make more funding available for some of the other fundamental aspects in terms of planning, more community police, and the other resources that a corporate would need to function efficiently and properly.
Yeah. Well, it also envisages some new office holders too in the different corporations. I know that.
Yes. Yes. Like the councillors now would be from a full-time position and not a part-time position as obtains today. So you would have a councillor that is working 24/7 for you and instead of part-time, because that's what the job allows for now. So there are many changes that are involved in local government reform that should lead to greater efficiency across the board.
We were told by the Prime Minister, we had him on late last year, that many of those other parts of the Act would have been operationalized and proclaimed at the start of 2024. Clearly, there's been pushback and delays. Is there any new timeline on when those aspects, because that is also part of the efficiency, those internal changes in the corporations?
Yes, well, as I said, the legislation itself is based on the funding from property taxes. So the property taxes, there had to be a stream of revenues first before we could implement some of those reforms legislatively. So now that we're getting this done, and this is, like I said, this has never been done before. The land and building taxes system was in place for almost 100 years, and it was about 7.5% of the overall property value. That has now been reduced to the level that we have now. So as soon as we get this area done, where there's a flow of revenues to the corporations, then we can implement, for instance, first to implement full-time councillors, which is going to require full-time salaries. And if the funding isn't available for some of those things, it just couldn't get done. The funding had to be there first.
Minister Manning, you know what has been my angst for the last 25 years, and it spans all the governments, so it's because I've experienced all the governments, is the fact that local government has never been proposed as part of this constitution. So I don't even know why we're going through all this, because in the morning,
part of the constitution, you said?
It's not part of the constitution, local government elections. It's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't, local government is not protected by the constitution. So even proposing to make representative full-time, I don't know how that will work, but I'm done. I've passed on my battle. I'm going to just enjoy myself on radio here in the morning.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that can be recommended to the local government reform persons, because there is still, some debate and consultations. And it's a living document. Because
tell me something. And you can correct me.
Hold on. Because the reform policy is the way that it is right now, doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to be forever. Of course, as we go along and we see challenges and changes that are required, changes will be made. So it's not etched in stone, regardless of what we do. That's one of the benefits of it not being within the constitution, because then you would require opposition support to have some of these changes done. And because it's not something that
they didn't do it either when they were in government. So clearly they're not interested in it either.
They can't block it at this point. That's the benefit of it.
But correct me if I'm wrong, isn't your WASA bill linked to your annual rental value of your property?
Yes, your WASA bill is linked.
Isn't it connected somehow to that?
Well, we use various databases that we were allowed to ensure that the data was correct, but I'm not exactly certain with how the WASA, your WASA assessment would be involved in your valuation. That would be something for someone.
No, that your valuation will eventually affect your WASA bill. That's where I'm going.
I'm uncertain of that. I'm not aware of that.
Yeah.
All right. Minister, we want to thank you this morning for being with us.
We're going to have you back, Minister Manning, because a lot of people are complaining we didn't take enough calls. So we're going to have
if you would get Dr. Behave, then we could take more calls, but you always
that's not happening. That's happening. So forget that.
All the best to you, Minister. Of course, I'll see you Sunday.
Thank you for being with us, Brian.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Sunday is actually the anniversary of the People's National Movement, 9 years in office.
Yes, August
Not
10th.
Sunday. Saturday, actually. It's the 10th. The 10th. Yes.
You all want a moment?
I'll tell you there, Wendell.
Great. Very good, man.
Have a great day,
All the best to you and to your family. All right, gentlemen, we got to run. We're behind time a bit.
Yep.
Have a fantastic day, whatever you do. Remember the theater is on this weekend. Lotto Madness. Get your tickets. Sapa Box Office opens today. And of course, tickets available at K Squared Fashions in San Fernando at C3 Center, Gulf City, and at Brentwood Mall in Chagonas and Fence of Marabella by the roundabout. Do not miss it, South.
Have a great day, everybody. Be safe.
Folks, have a wonderful day. Remember to let go and let go.
All right, let's get into 8 o'clock news brief.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Time for your news update to 8 o'clock. I'm Afril Centel Bob. Good morning. Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Brian Manning, says with reference to the property tax, persons pay 2% of the tax on the annual rental value of their property. And these funds will be used to repair roads, improve buildings, and the overall infrastructure throughout the country. Minister Manning told the Power Breakfast Show this morning that the money goes into a fund and by law cannot be used for anything other than local government activities. He noted wherever persons pay their property tax, that's the area the funds will be used so that various infrastructural issues could be addressed throughout TNT. He said if someone has not received a notice on their property, they could reach out to the valuation division to get their property valued. He said that the ministry has been working closely with the TT Post to ensure that persons receive their assessments within 3 days of the issue of the document. He emphasized that the actual amount people pay for the entire year is only 2% of the value of their property. Chief Secretary Fali Augustine is calling on the police in Tobago to use heavy force and all available tactics to tackle the surge in gang and gun violence of the island. Tobago has recorded 19 murders for the year so far, and even as Tobagonians have been complaining about roadblock exercises, Augustine told police officers to turn the island upside down to find those responsible for the bloodshed. He made the comments while speaking at a media briefing yesterday, and he called for immediate and decisive action by the TNT Police Service. This included taking radical and serious action to dismantle drug blocks and shut down businesses facilitating them. Meanwhile, police in Tobago are advising citizens not to panic as murders rise on the island. They're assuring citizens that everything possible will be done to deal with gang and gun violence on the island. However, the TTPS executive asked Tobagonians not to panic as the island's murder toll hit an historic 19 after a woman was shot and killed on Monday afternoon in Argyle. At the media conference on Monday night in Plymouth, ACP Collis Hazel said Tobago has been seeing a level of violence it has never experienced before. He said this is not a time to criticize law enforcement, but rather it is a critical period in which every citizen must play their part in the fight against crime. We're turning to some good news now in the world of sport. Jerome Richards of Trinidad and Tobago is into the finals of the men's 400 meters at the Olympic Games in Paris. The final of the event will take place at 3:20 p.m. today. Running in lane 7 in semifinal 1, Richards placed second in a time of 44.33 seconds at 1:35 on Tuesday afternoon. The race was won by Quincy Hall of America in 43.95 seconds. Another Caribbean athlete, Karani James of Grenada, got a season best time of 43.78 seconds to win Heat 2. Well, that was your update to 8 o'clock. Look out for news in full at 12 noon.
All right, at 5 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock, let's join Ms. Dennise Demming. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and thank you for having us. I'm Dennise Demming, and we're doing Power Conversations. And this morning's Power Conversation is with Gregory Sloan Seal. Gregory, are you there with us?
I believe I am.
Yes, you are. Yes, I just wanted to hear you. Hope you are fantastic this morning. Our conversation is about youth violence, reduction, and prevention. That's what we are going to be talking about. And I wanted to start by asking you, I know that you're widely recognized for your efforts. Tell me something about Gregory Sloan Seal that the public might not know. What has influenced your work in this field?
What has influenced my work? Well, what can I say? I myself, growing up in Belmont, was a very active young person, underachiever academically in school. You know, used to get in trouble a lot. Didn't do too well academically. Not that I didn't have the ability, I just didn't have the focus. What I think steered me away from a lot of trouble outside of school and outside the home was sports. I played a lot of sports, and when I was in St. Mary's College, Father Difu, I was one of what they call Father Difu boys. He used to take some of the troublemakers under his wing and get them involved in tennis and squash and so forth. So I played squash for quite a few years, about 3 years, maybe from Form 2 to 5 when I was in St. Mary's. And that was something that you know, kept myself and a few others occupied at the time. What do people not know about me? Boy, you know, I've been in the media over the years so much. I think people know a lot about me. But just to say that, you know, from St. Mary's College, I actually attended 5 high schools before I got into university. And I changed schools for various reasons. Some of them behavior, some of them underperforming. I went to St. Mary's, did Form 5 there, then I repeated, went to St. Joseph College. Then I got an opportunity to go away to study. And when I went away, I actually passed through 3 high schools before I got into university. So that's all part of my journey, and it's also part of my understanding of young people and the need to always be supportive and offer opportunity. Opportunity for me is very key when it comes to young people, and giving them the ability to have, you know, choices. Yeah. What else do people not know about me? Well, I've been married 30 years now.
You've been married 30 years now.
30
Gregory,
years.
that is really wonderful in terms of when I hear people say they've been married for such a long time, because I really believe that family and what marriage brings is a fundamental part of society, and it helps the society to grow and develop. And I'm not being formal that you have to get married, but I'm saying those long relationships, I think, are so useful.
Yeah.
You know? So that is something I didn't know about you. But here's something I wanted to ask you about. You said you played a lot of squash.
Yeah, but sports, football.
Yeah.
I hung up my racket. Squash is very demanding on the body, yeah? You know what I mean? And but I still play football.
Yeah.
That's about the only sport that I fully engage in. I still swim. I like to swim. And I walk. I walk in my neighborhood as much as I can. Yeah, fitness is very important to me. No, I don't play squash. I hung up my squash racket when my older sister, who never played squash when I played squash, beat me in the oval. And I was like, what? Okay, time to retire. I hadn't played for years. And she was like, come and play with me. And I played at the boy. So I said to myself, wow, okay.
There was a time when squash was very, very popular in our country, and a lot of people played it. I just played it for a short time. It's not my kind of game because it's just too hard for me.
Well, it's demanding on your knees, on you know, because that start and stop, you know. But I enjoyed it while I played it, to tell you the honest truth, and I still enjoy watching it. And my sister, my brother-in-law, and my nephew, who they're still heavily involved in squash, you know, within the local scene. And my nephew was also a national champion, junior and senior champion, and Caribbean champion also.
Wonderful. So, Gregory, you've been involved in a number of programs or initiatives that have been successful in reducing youth violence. Can you share some of those stories with us?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I started off my career in 1989 in Canada, working in a facility for juvenile delinquents, a residential care facility for juvenile delinquents, kids who were coming out of the system and trying to reintegrate into their homes, into society. So that's where I first started. Was it ever in my crystal ball? No, it wasn't. Was I going to do youth work? No, I wasn't. I was gearing my head mentally to get into mainstream, you know, a bank job, insurance, something along those lines. You know, both of my parents were professionals. My mom, who's still around, she'll be 92 this September. She was an accountant, and my dad was a lawyer. You know, so it was really streamlined to go along. You know, well, I guess what I grew up and saw in around me. You know. So I did sociology and psychology at University of Windsor in Canada, and when I graduated, I was told by Immigration Canada that basically you can only get a job for a year within your field of study. So I did social and psych, so it really pointed me only to social services. So I looked up in the Yellow Pages, sent out some resumes, and the first interview I went to was for this agency, and they hired me, and I was just going to be there for a year. So I said, okay, fine, yeah, let me do it. After working there for about 2 weeks, what I realized at that juncture, I was 22 years old, and a lot of the youth I was working with were adolescent males between the ages of 13 to 19. So a lot of these guys, the 19-year-olds in particular, we were dressing the same, listening to the same music. You know what I mean? For all intents and purposes, these are guys that I could have limed with, see myself liming with. Some of them had a good sense of humor, everything else. But what I recognized was that, you know, I had the rapport, and I understood where they were coming from. And because, you know, I was a troublesome young person myself, you know, kind of, you know, anti-establishment to a point. And I recognized in them that the only difference between me and them was the fact that I had opportunity and I had support, and they didn't. Because a lot of things that they would have gotten in trouble for were things that I would have engaged in. Nothing major, but things that, you know, you could have gotten in trouble for in Canada. Yeah. And I said to myself, wow, I mean, this is like, you know what I mean? And that's what really got me. After 2 weeks, I said, wow, I really enjoyed this job. I really enjoyed the rapport with the youths. At the time, I myself was a youth, as I say. So as I got older and I continued to work with young people, I ended up staying in Canada, working in that agency for over 5 years. I got the opportunity, you know, to get that experience in a setting that was positive for young people, supportive for young people, and where I saw young people get the opportunity to really catch themselves and develop and rehabilitate to an extent, you know, or even habilitate, let's say. So when I came back home with that mindset, recognizing that when I was growing up in Trinidad, there was overwhelming amount of negativity and negative reinforcement towards young people, right? And this is back in the 70s, 80s when I was growing up. You know what I mean? And when I say so, we tend to be really focused on negative reinforcement. We don't look at everyday things that young people do that are good, that are positive, that are progressive, and congratulate them for it. But the one slip up they do is like, oh God, is always focused on the negative. You didn't do this, you didn't do that. You don't look at see what they do, what they actually do. You know what I mean? So I came back with that positive reinforcement sort of practice in my mind. So when I came back home, I started to work with the YMCA in 1995, right? In a program that was initially started off as a street youth outreach program, all right, of displaced youth who didn't live at home. A lot of them lived on the streets and abandoned buildings and so forth in and around Port of Spain. And, you know, in that work, I also recognized that for a lot of the young people who were living on the streets at the time, that they were actually natural leaders. They were intelligent, not book sense, but life, understanding certain things in life. And I recognize, you know, over time that for these young people to leave home, to leave what they knew, no matter how under-resourced it was and how abusive it may have been, it's really a leap of faith to go into the street and try to survive, you know. So in working with these young people, with these youth, some of who I'm still in contact with today, and some of who really, you know, really found success, you know, in their lives. And these are kids who would have been, you know, kind of discarded by society, because the YMCA having to set up this program in 1995, why would you have to set up a program? You know what I mean? If
Gregory, I just want to ask you something about that. You said that the YMCA set up a street youth reinforcement program.
outreach program, yeah.
Outreach. And you also said that you saw leaders in these youth who were out without homes, who were on the street and so on. Could you tell me a little more about that? That they were leaders. Are you saying that some of these youth who end up on the street, who end up having to survive like that, sometimes that they have some leadership skills that we ought to be looking at?
Oh, definitely. Even today, the youth who lining on the blocks, a lot of the youth who causing trouble and so forth. These are young people who have a certain. I mean, listen, everyone has the ability to you know what I mean, to lead to some extent, right? But what I'm saying is that for a young person to leave what they know, to go into the unknown, and these are conversations I would have had with them too, in the sense that they just felt that they wanted something different, you know. I'm talking about 12, 13, 14-year-olds, you know, and they would leave their homes. And some of them came from Valencia, Toco. I end up in Port of Spain. You know what I mean? I mean, to take that leap of faith at that age says something. It says something, right? And we can look at it negatively and say, well, it says that they're just wayward and they don't care, whatever have you. But for me, I looked at it as, you know, they have a certain level of self-confidence and a certain level of you know, initiative to say to themselves, you know, for whatever reason, I can't stay here. I don't want this anymore. I'm going to look for something different, hopefully better, right? For a lot of them, it didn't end up being much better, other than the fact that they had the freedom to move and that sort of thing, you know. Definitely, you need to have some leadership skills to negotiate the streets. You know what I mean, and survive survive.
Yeah.
You know,
Is that program still being done by the YMCA?
to the best of my knowledge, it's not.
It's not.
Not how it was run. I mean, the YMCA still has programs and so forth for young people, but I'm actually not certain if they have an outreach program where they actively search out young people who are in difficult circumstances and that sort of thing.
So are you aware of whether there is an outreach program in the country for young people who are in difficult circumstances?
Well, there are definitely groups. I'm familiar with Rainbow Rescue. I think Credo Foundation that operates on Nelson Street. I'm not sure if Marian House. I've kind of lost touch with that aspect of it. But definitely, and there are quite a few homes that still function, and you know, if there's a youth in trouble, that someone refers them and says, listen, I've seen this young man on the road, so on and so forth. They do have some homes, you know, privately run homes that would, you know, try and see if they can offer them some support. So it does exist, right? I mean, and then the government has the Children's Authority, right, which has a mandate to really assist children and under 18s who are in difficulty. Yeah.
All right, Gregory, the next question I'm going to ask you, and just before I'm going to just promote our program to invite people to call us. The next question I want to ask you is, how would you describe the current state of youth violence in our community? And while you think about that, this is a conversation, power conversation with Gregory Sloanstein about youth violence and its prevention. Call us on 222-TALK. That's 222-8255. If you're from Canada or you're abroad, it's toll free. Call us on 866-525-1099. Or if you want to WhatsApp us, it's 868-318-1021. Power 102 digital app. There's a website. It's on YouTube. There's Facebook. So we are all over the place. There's M&E TV. There's Flow. There's Amplia. Power conversation. So back to this discussion with Gregory Sloan Steele about youth and violence. And what do you think? The question that I was asking is, how do you describe the current state of youth violence in our country?
Yeah, no, at this juncture, I think we're going through an exceptionally difficult period. And the thing is the proliferation of the high-powered weapons. I mean, that's a source for serious concern. Okay, we see what's going on. However, I don't think it's something that we can't address if we really and truly put the effort in. Young people, adolescence is a period of psycho-emotional sort of upheaval, so to speak. You're going through puberty, you have a lot of hormonal changes going on. Socially, there's a whole social construct where you want to fit in, you want to find your group, these sort of things. Yeah. And it's important for young people, especially adolescents, to be engaged in positive activity. And this is where sports, this is where other types of activities, clubs, scouts, let's say in the school system, is very, very important, right? At a community level, communities play 90% of the role in really engaging young people. And what I've done over the years, working in the Y, working in the Ministry of National Security, where I was for 15 and a half years, was an asset development based approach, meaning that you look in a community and you look for the physical and human resource assets, right? And all communities throughout Trinidad and Tobago have those, be it physically in terms of community centers, which we love to build, right? We have them all over the country. And where they don't have community centers, we definitely have churches and mosques and mandirs and schools, right? That have places where young people can go to engage in activities, right? So first of all, we recognize that we have these spaces. Do we have the human resources to do programs and so forth? If you do a walk around various communities, and this can be Beetham, Sealots, Laventille, this could be Hague Street in Caranage, Enterprise in Chaguanas, anywhere, train line Arima. And I'm naming these communities because these are communities that people will view as they would view them negatively. But if you walk through these communities, you recognize that within those communities, there are many community members who are doing their part to build the social fabric within their communities. It could be the football coach who has a little football club going, a little team going, cricket coach, could be some retired teacher or other who is tutoring 4 or 5 students in their porch every evening so they can, excel in their academics. It could be the welder, the woodworker who takes in 1 or 2 little youths, and says, come and learn, or the car mechanic. I mean, I see it. I've seen it, right? So what we need to do is recognize that within our communities, we have these assets, both physical and human, right? And we need to support, well, first of all, the physical spaces, they are good places to have programs, right? And programs for young people, it doesn't necessarily have to be the run-of-the-mill, what we do, the join-in, the masonry, welding, these sort of things. Those things are excellent. And if a youth, I mean, they should always have those types of programs available. So for young people who are inclined in that, right, they can be ushered into that and kept busy and kept motivated. But on the flip side of that, our sporting programs, we just don't have enough. And they would say funding, but I would say that, it's much cheaper to build a positive human being than to fix a broken adult, right? That's an old adage, but it just makes sense. You know what I mean? So, over time, we have to recognize that building more prisons, hiring more police, security guards. I think this is security industry in Trinidad employs. At one point, I remember it was over 50,000 people. And if the police service is 7,000 officers, that's the sanctioned strength around there, 7,000, 8,000, right? It's what, 6 times? The security industry is 6 times more human resources. So we have 60,000 people roaming around an island of 1.4 million, just trying to keep persons from taking things, breaking things, harassing people. Whereas if we poured those resources, you could imagine if we had, and I've been saying this for decades, if we had 10,000, just give us 10,000 social workers, you know what I mean? To work within our communities, people could do what they actually like to do. You know what I mean? As
Yeah.
opposed to, yeah, go ahead.
Gregory, you're talking there about breaking. It is easier, and that's such a wonderful statement. It is easier to develop a positive person than to repair a broken person. And we seem to be developing a lot of broken young people. So I wonder, what could we do? You talked about 10,000 social workers would make a difference, but what could people do in a home to begin to be positive?
Well, I would say, it only when I came back home, because I left here when I was like 18, right? So when I left here, I myself was a young person. I myself was caught up in my own, teenage dramas and having fun and not really focusing too much on the serious part of life. When I came back home as a professional, it's then it really dawned on me. I didn't realize how negative we could be. I just didn't realize that until I came back home, started to work with that cohort of young persons, just to realize how much negativity surrounds us in Trinidad and Tobago. And the thing is, intrinsically, we are very positive, fun-loving, kind individuals. You know what I mean? And I saw that immediately. Well, I knew that growing up. Even growing up, I grew up in Belmont, right? Closer to the Savannah side, but as a boy, I was driven all in the streets, riding my bike all over East Port of Spain, Belmont, and so forth. And, I would have seen and experienced the love, right? Even within a space, because Belmont in those days had a negative connotation to it, right? We had, they had places where they had bad boys and whatever have you. But still, within the whole scheme of things, there was so much positivity and so much love. And that's something, once again, that when I worked in the ministry, when I worked in the YMCA, and I would go to various communities that people, view with a lot of skepticism. And I'm not saying that some of it is not unfounded, that, that those spaces are not unsafe, right? But let's recognize that the overwhelming majority of the people that live there, they just try to mind their own business and try to live as best as they can and raise their children as best as they can, right? In an environment that is constantly tugging and pulling at their children and at them too, in a negative direction. So what can the ordinary person do? Listen, the ordinary person, myself included, we all have to recognize that there's a lot of good out there. There's a lot of good in Trinidad and Tobago. There's a lot of good in our young people. And whatever we can do, I tell people, listen, deal with your family first and foremost. Okay? Persons have come to me over the years, I want to volunteer. I said, do you have children? Yes, I have children. When do you want to volunteer? In the evening? I said, doesn't your child need you in the evening? I said, the best thing for you to do, if you want to volunteer, I would say go and spend time with home. Get home early. Don't come down to the Y until 7 in the evening and then go home to your child or adolescent, right? No matter how good you think they may be, they still need you at this time. And maybe what you can do is talk to your child and find out from them if they have a friend or two who are struggling, who are not getting support at home, who and see if you can pull them in and work with them, right? They already have the contact through your child, your son or your daughter, and maybe you can do that volunteerism at home or closer to home within your community. You know what I mean?
Yeah, really, I just want to say that that is such a brilliant idea, and it's an excellent story that someone comes to the YMCA and offers to help, and you say to them, "Okay, thank you very much, but what's happening at home?" You know, work with your child, work with your child's friend, make sure that they are all right, and that will build community. How did people respond when you told them that?
Well, those who had children and that sort of thing would be like, I never thought about that. That makes so much sense. You know what I mean? And it's just a redirection of the energy. And it just goes to show that sometimes we're not looking at we're not looking at what's right in front of us. You know what I mean? That may need the attention. You know, we look outside and see how we can help, not recognizing that that within your own home, your child may require that support. And for us to, we think that we need, you know, that everything's okay at home because we have a TV, there's food on the table, these sort of things. But adolescents need, and let me say, I have three daughters. The youngest is 17, the oldest is 27. So I've been through the adolescence with girls at home, and definitely it's a period where they don't want to necessarily hear from their parents. They don't even want to be around you too much, right? Because they're finding themselves. So we have to recognize that also, right? And if we're true with ourselves, we'd recognize that when we were adolescents too, it's a time where we wanted to kind of, test our wings and fly a little bit without mommy and daddy, that sort of thing. But in saying that, there are also a lot of young people in Trinidad and Tobago who didn't get the grounding from 0 to 13, 14. And they're seeking that. They're actually seeking that, right? And this is where I'm saying where persons within the communities, if you could identify, the youth, you see them when they start to stray, they're out in the street a lot, they're liming a lot. You pass them in your car and say, oh God, so-and-so child, liming, well, that's a future criminal, this kind of thing, right? I hear it, I've seen it, and I say to myself, okay, you see it, right? Well, that's not my business. That's not, well, you know what? It's all our business. Because if there's a future criminal growing up in your community, hear what? He's going to be distressing your community. So it's best you take him in now when you can, when they're young and they're impressionable, right? And I'm just saying, try and work with one. Just try and work with one. And a lot of people do. So don't get me wrong. In all these communities I named, there are people doing work beyond the call of duty. So they are there, right? They're there. What I'm saying is that we need to continue to promote this and put things in place within the communities that can support what they are doing and encourage others to get involved. This is what I'm saying. If we could take a little slice of the security pie, right, of those 60,000 strong security officers, right, and have social workers involved instead. You know what I mean? Just we could do so much more, and I've met so many over the years security officers who go into night school trying to improve themselves, but they work in 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, and it's like snakes and ladders. You know what I mean? You reach a certain level and you're trying your best, and so the point I'm making is there are people out there who want to contribute more to their society, who have the aptitude, the attitude, but they don't have the resources and they don't have the support to get over that hump. So they find themselves in a situation where they're constantly just in survival mode. Okay, They're working, they're not doing anything negative, but these are resources that are just sitting in a booth, standing in a booth, for 12 hours of the day where they could be out there working with the youths on the block.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mentoring them, you know, getting
So,
them involved with more.
Gregory, you're talking about getting 10,000 social workers who could be on the blocks, who could be helping people who are struggling, helping children who are trying to learn. There's something else you said which I found very important. You talked about from 0 to 13, that is where the grounding occurs. Now, for that to happen, what changes do you think we should make for that audience in our country, that 0 to 13 audience, where they are now developing values? And right now, my impression is that a lot of those values are negative, and we need to be able to transform that. Are there programs that you would suggest, or activities that you would suggest to focus on that audience of the 0 to 13?
Okay, now, people might think it's utopian what I'm talking about, 10,000. What I want you to understand something. Right now, we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on security, which is kind of preventative, but after the fact, right? All I'm saying is, let's look at those resources and see how we could carve out, how we can turn some of those security persons into outreach workers, social workers, right? That's what I'm saying. Okay? Because I think if we could start to shift a little bit, and I'm not talking about defunding the police or anything like that. I'm talking about even within the security services, right? If we could take a more proactive approach, a more strategic approach, and look at prevention, right? And supportive sort of approach, as opposed to merely just protecting people and things, right? And reacting after a crime is done, okay? That it will go a very long way. And I've seen it right here in Trinidad and Tobago in reducing youth crime, youth violence, and so forth, okay? And when I say social workers, I'm saying that in a very broad sense, but I'm also talking within that 10,000, within that 5,000, within that 2,000. Listen, if you get 2,000 even, right? I'm talking about sports, utilize our schools within all the communities, right? To have programs that are youth oriented, right? Get the youths involved in IT, in sports, in music production. I mean, we're so creative. We have Trinidad music, right? Big genre. All right. The youths like it. When they talk to the youths on them, they say, listen, I would sing something positive, but it don't sell, it don't give me no pips. Right? So we had to find a way to engage the young people and see how we could, just make learning more exciting, make learning more relevant, and these sort of things. Yeah. Sorry, Dennise. kind of went up on a tangent there. But you see, I see it in my. These are things that we actually worked on and put into practice and bore fruit. So the thing is, I see a Trinidad that can work, but can work with the current, not the current, well, the current structures, if we fed it with the human resources. We have sports officers, we have community officers within the government. Do we have enough? No, we do not have enough. Do we have enough district health nurses who I understand used to walk the streets, right? House to house. You talk about 0 to 13 when a child is born. Who is following up in the home? If you identify an issue, right, in the home, domestic violence, substance abuse, neglect, and so forth, within the community, you have a team of social workers, of outreach workers who can then go in and assist in whatever way, right? There is a way to build the system, but it needs to be resourced with human beings. We have the systems ready. I hear people talking about legislation. I hear people talking about finances and these sort of things. And it's not that we don't have finances. Trinidad has money. What we're not doing is that we're not spending it in the right places, right? We have to understand that, right? Even with the young persons that I've worked with over the years, they will tell you, I grew up in a home that was quite frugal. My parents were very frugal, right? And my parents always told us, they said, listen, when you work for your money, because I started to work when I was 14 during the holidays, right? I was a grocery packer at True Value when True Value first opened, right? And then I worked in races because I live in Savannah, close to the Savannah, so I used to work in races, right?
Yes.
Horse racing, that is.
Yes.
So when I had my money, right, I realized that when I spend my money, what am I getting out of it? You know what I mean? And my parents raised me to understand that, listen, money is just a means to an end, right? And what you take with your money, you exchange for a good or a service, right? And you have to determine if that good or that service is what you want to exchange your hard-earned money for, right? And if it's bringing you the benefits that you require. And all I'm saying is, as a country, right, we have to look at where we put in our finance. Do we want to put it in, as I said, after the fact type of programs, or do we want to put it in preventative programs? Do we want to build positive people, or do we want to continue to fix broken people?
Yeah.
Right. So it's a paradigm shift, and once again, the money's here because government's spending money, but what are they spending it on, and how important at the end of the day are the things we need to weigh. We need to weigh it. What is more important for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, for our communities, for our mental health? I mean, I see so many young people more and more walking the streets, and it's heartbreaking because, you know, having numerous hundreds, if not thousands, of relationships with young people over the decades in Trinidad and Tobago, I know that the large majority are just crying out for meaning in their lives.
Yes, you can see that in a number of young people. You said that you had spent 15 years at the Ministry of National Security. On reflection, what would you have done differently?
Can you repeat that, Dennise? You kind of broke up. Sorry.
I'm saying that you spent 15 years in the Ministry of National Security, and your focus has always been on violence and youth and how to prevent it. On reflection, if you just had to look back on that, what would you have done differently?
What would I have done differently? Well, I could tell you what we were doing was impacting in a positive way. What would I have done differently? I don't know. Maybe lobby. Maybe be out there a little bit more, lobbying for that type of transitioning. You know, away from a focus. Well, not away, towards more of a focus of community building and an asset development approach, looking at what we already have and how we can build on it, because we tend to always want. And when I worked in the YMCA, I visited YMCAs in the Caribbean, in South America, Central America, and so forth, where they were very small physical spaces, and YMCAs would have met under trees, you know, in very small spaces. And Trinidad, I'll never forget, either the YMCA or when I first started working in the ministry, there was actually, it was the ministry, because it was IDB funded, and an IDB evaluator came to evaluate the program and just to check out things. And I took them into a few communities, and I remember going into the Beetham in fourth phase, phase 4, that they call Heliard. And I'm walking with this lady, an American, and she's walking around. She's like, but all these are concrete structures. I said, some of these houses have air conditions in them. And she's like, well, there's a basketball court. She says, so this is what you call a low-income ghetto community? And I'm said, this is what is considered in Trinidad, right? And then she hears beep, beep, beep. There's a garbage truck coming to collect garbage. And she was like, oh. She was like, "Oh, this is fascinating," and for her, she was like, "This is a community. This physically, this is a." She's not seeing what everyone else sees outside of who lives in Ibiza. If you understand what I'm saying. And I was
Yeah.
like, you know
Well,
what?
what you're saying is that we have a lot of the assets, we have a lot of the physical structures. Well, what we don't seem to have is the human resource part of it that will create a different approach and that will inspire people to move to a different level. That's what I'm hearing.
Correct. And that's what we were doing when I worked in the ministry, was really adding value to the communities, building the competency in the communities. And when I say building the competency, so we saw risk factors as child abuse, child neglect, domestic violence, substance use and abuse, right? Conflict, right? Intra-community conflict leading to physical violence. What do? We went to UE, we went to COSTAT, we went to the various institutions, UE Open Campus, and we identified from the community persons who are already doing these types of things, and we got them enrolled in psychology, counseling programs. We would have graduated over 200 persons in mediation through dispute resolution. At the time, it was housed in West Moorings there, right, at the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Right, dispute resolution. And I'm talking about young persons, middle-aged persons from what we would consider underserved communities, high-risk communities, pick your adjective, right? And they all attended. They were all very enthusiastic. Most of them, I wouldn't say they all graduated, but most of them graduated, and most of them went back to their communities and used the skills and knowledge that they gained to try and continue to have a positive impact on the community.
So Gregory, how could we escalate that? Because what you're talking about is a strategy that you took people from within those communities, educated them, raised their level of awareness. Some of them have gone back. And you talked about 200, but we need to escalate that to, you keep saying 10,000, and I love that number. How do we escalate that so that we impact the communities?
How do we escalate that? Well, I mean, listen, we have corporate Trinidad and Tobago who could definitely. So you have to understand the problem. The problem hasn't really changed that much, the underlying issues. What has changed, obviously, is the access to these high-powered weapons and the brazenness of our young people. Some of them, very few of them actually, but nonetheless, to use it as they've been using it. You know what I mean? So that's changed. So we need to find that. But the underlying issues of child neglect, child abuse, and neglect is a form of abuse. People believe when they leave their 12-year-old to mind their 5-year-old and 3-year-old sibling, that's fine. And you know what? In some circumstances, I'm not knocking anyone. I understand that, but this is where the state, this is where the community, this is where private sector needs to analyze and put in some supportive structures. Okay, right? But we need to recognize what the risk factors are. Each risk factor has a protective factor that we can institute to deal or mitigate against the risk factor. And then we just have to come up with a way of redirecting resources to fill those gaps, right? And it's very important, especially for our, as I would say, yes, 0 to 16, 0 to 16, 17, right? They need that support. Do we need a lot of money? No, we don't. I visited Cuba in 2004. And I stayed in a household with a family. And they had a young girl. And actually, it was a family trip. Right? Baby started to go to Cuba, and I was like, "Oh, let's take advantage of this." And we stayed in a bed and breakfast in somebody's home. And the young daughter was a gymnast, and my two daughters also at the time were doing gymnastics. And we went to the gym. I wanted to see the gym, so we walked to the gym. This is in Havana, fairly dilapidated. But when I walked in there, it was like children and youth galore who not doing gymnastics, doing fencing, doing boxing, doing judo, doing wrestling. Outside, they're playing basketball, football, baseball. I was like, wow. And listen to me, this is not no state-of-the-art situation. It may have been once upon a time, but we all know the Cuban situation, right? But if we could take a little piece out of their human development construct, right? Because their focus is human development. I mean, they export doctors, sports. Right here in Trinidad, we have nurses, we have doctors, we have sports people. Our gold medalist was trained by a Cuban javelin thrower,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So what I'm saying is, right here in the Caribbean, we have expertise and we have a framework to show you what human development is all about, from zero to adolescence. You know what I mean? Let's just take it from there. Let's just take it from there, right? You just pour resources into your community, right? And then so much of the other things that we are putting plasters on, bandages on, would slowly but surely start to disappear. And it has to do, social ecology is like biological ecology, right? If we look at, no, I'm going off here.
Yeah, you're going off, but
I want us to understand something, right? That you go to the doctor for an illness, and the doctor tell you, well, you need more exercise, you need to change your diet. And you start to change the diet if you have the discipline to do that. You start to do a little more exercise if you have the discipline to do that. You cut out certain things out of your diet because it's just not good for you. And you realize, whoa, my arthritis feeling a little better. I'm not getting those migraines as I used to. I'm losing weight. I'm feeling good. What did I do? It's a mental shift. It's a if you understand where I'm coming from, it's really and truly, as simple as I said that, it's really and truly the same in human development and community development. We just have to have the discipline and the focus and the consistency, and you will see the change.
I want to add to that. We need to have the strategy. If we don't have the strategy, then we won't be able to encourage and embrace the communities. So we need to create a strategy that focuses on the youth and focuses on violence and focuses on development of our communities.
And we have these strategies. We have these strategies. These strategies, I've seen these strategies. I've seen the community development strategies. I mean, we have some brilliant people working in our government, Having spent 15 and a half years there, which to this day, I still cannot believe I spent 15 and a half years working in government. But I have interfaced with very professional, very knowledgeable people. But once again, with all the knowledge and all the skills, we need to redirect some resources into the prevention, into the supportive line of things.
I'm happy to hear you say that we have the strategies, because it seems to me that we are stuck moving from strategy to action. That what is required to transform a strategy into action, we just seem to be stuck there and not doing the things to ensure that the action happens and therefore the development occurs. But as we are almost about to end this conversation, which has been absolutely wonderful, tell me, what would you like our listeners to take away from this conversation?
Look right in front of you what needs to be fixed and try to work on that, right? We're talking about young people. Don't fear our young people, because they are functioning with a certain level of fear themselves that's masked as bravado. A lot of the youths I worked with over the years are youths who've been involved in gangs and so forth. And trust me, they are just as frightened as the next person, right? And that is why they join gangs. That is why they get involved in what they get involved in, right? It's really strength in numbers for them and so forth. And what I would want to take away from this is that there's a lot of work we can do on an individual level. Even if one person takes on one person, right? To say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna work with this one individual. And it could be your own child, because I'll tell you something, as a parent, sometimes you neglect what's happening at home because, closer to home, you can't deal, maybe you're re-stimulated with your child, because 9 out of 10 times your child going to be a mirror image of you. You know what I mean? So, seek out those that you think or need assistance, and see how you can assist them as best as you can, right? And in the YMCA, we used to say, when we had volunteer drives, if anyone can give of their time, treasure, right, or skill, right?
And
so it doesn't mean money, but it means your time. And I'll tell you something, having worked with youth over the years, a lot of them have come back and told me that their time in the YMCA, they say, it's just the time you all gave us, the kind of debrief. And recognize too that our young people going through a lot of stress. There's a lot of stress. Online peer pressure. We live in an information world where we see so much. And we know as adults, I mean, let's be real. As adults, we want things, we covet things, we see things. Not everybody, but a lot of us. You want the nice car. You want the bling. You want a 75-inch TV. You want all of that. Right? We want all of that, and we are adults, right? And we should know better and understand, things a little better. What for the young person? The young person who kind of in the wilderness, looking to find themselves. Whatever they've been taught from 0 to 12, that's all they have to help them to navigate, right? What do we expect? What do we expect if there's nothing out there to help them to navigate, to capture them, and focus them to find their passions and work on their passions? What we expect? That they will just fall into place and everything will be normal and be great? No. So what we have now with this level of violence and antisocial behavior is because as a community we've dropped and we've left the children to stray, basically. And as I said, I'm not laying blame on any one thing, because it's all of us. I mean, we all have to accept responsibility, right? At some level. And I myself, I mean, at this juncture, tell you honest truth, people ask me, why do get involved in this? Why do get involved in that? And after 35 years, I am more than willing to share my skills and knowledge. More than willing to jump back in front line. Whew.
And there's a tremendous difference there between sharing your skills and knowledge and being in the front line, being in the leadership of it. But what I have got from you, Gregory, and it's been an absolutely wonderful conversation, is that positive reinforcement is important. And we seem to focus a lot on the negativity. And that is something that I think is absolutely wonderful. Another learning that I got from today is the importance of the community. And if we could start to build communities again, another very important thing is, you say we have the assets, we have community centers, we have churches, we have all kinds of places where we can have our children understand. So,
and we have the human resources too. We just have to recognize that we have to shift them away from where they are now, trying to survive as doing jobs that they do to pay the rent, to put food on their table, to send their children to school, and get them involved where their passion really lies. As I said, but in seeing positive reinforcement, let me give some practicalities here. So I have 3 children, 3 kids. And I'll be like, okay, when you finish, can you wipe down the table, do the dishes? Right. They're not doing it. I have to remind them. And then one day I come, and it's like, wait, the dishes done? I go and I tell them, I say, thank you very much for doing the dishes. And I didn't have to ask you. And I really appreciate that. And just try and see if you could make that part of your everyday experience, you know, come into the bedroom, you know, things in disarray. It's like, can you clean up your room, please, a bit? Da, 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 da. Okay, your room is in a mess. Keep reminding, keep reminding. One day I come inside, the room is clean. Daddy, look, I cleaned up my room. You happy now? I say, I am elated. I am very happy. And you did such a great job. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate that. You know, I see things, and when I capture things, and the youth I've worked with over the years will tell you that too. When I see them doing the right thing, I call them out on it, and I congratulate them, and I say that is great. And you know what? That does so much for the young person. It is unbelievable because all they get is negative, negative, negative. Nobody see. We are blind to the good that they do. Our eyes are wide open to the negatives that they do.
So that, thank you very much, Gregory. And our departing note is focus on the positives and reward people for doing the things that make our country better. Thank you very much, Gregory Sloanstein. And it's been Power Conversations. Join me next Monday at 9 o'clock, at 8 o'clock for Power Conversations. Thank you and goodbye.